Well, we're here and we got another episode, another great episode actually, of Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking. And I tell you, I'm having such a great time interviewing a lot of cool people, learning a lot of really cool stuff actually. And that's something I just enjoy doing, as I've told you guys many times in my previous videos. I enjoy talking to people about subjects that I find very interesting. That's the whole reason I started this YouTube channel. It's just been something I've always really enjoyed doing. I've always enjoyed researching a lot of different things and going deeper into it and trying to figure out, stuff behind the scenes that you're not seeing in the mainstream media and people aren't always talking about. And I can tell you guys, one of the first things that actually ever really caught my eye and got me really doing a lot of research was Bohemian Grove. And I'm hopefully everybody that's listening to this, I'm sure you guys have heard of it or have heard it mentioned or anything along those lines, but it is definitely a topic that is super interesting. And I found out, I think, first about it, if I'm trying to remember correctly, was by watching an Alex Jones documentary where he actually snuck into the Bohemian Grove and took some video footage of their cremation of care, I think their name of the ritual was. And it was a super cool and interesting video, and that's where I dove in after watching that and started really getting into the nuts, the nooks and crannies of what the Bohemian Grove is all about. And let me tell you guys something: when you guys start digging into this, like I did, and finding out what's going on in a place like this, it really makes you start to wonder how many things that have happened in our world have been done behind closed doors or at a place like the Bohemian Grove. So I hope you guys find this really interesting. I got a great guest. He came back here again to talk to all of us. So I want to bring in my guest, Greg Fernandez Jr. I've had him here before, and I hope to have him here again in the future. So I'm going to bring him in. Let's welcome him in here. Give me one sec here. And there we go. Hello, Greg. Welcome to the crypt once again.
Greetings. Always glad to be here. It's a little cold in the crypt today. I'm feeling this dark mood is kind of following me. It's a dark winter, as some people may say, but I'm happy to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. I'm looking so forward to this topic because when I first started talking to you, it was definitely, but we were talking about the Crowley case and stuff like that. And then as we talked a little bit more, I asked you if you knew a lot about Bohemian Grove. Like I just kind of threw it out there because I thought with all the research you do on a lot of different topics and cases that you might know something. And then I found out that you've actually go there. You've actually been there. I wouldn't say I wouldn't call them protests or anything that they're doing, but people definitely do gather there at the time when they meet to, show an array of things, whether they're happy they're there or not. And I thought that was super cool when you told me that you actually had been there. So,
Yeah, I mean, and when we say go there, we mean go on the not. I don't cross the property line. So we go right up to the property line. We know where the property line is, and we stand outside and we try to chat with people and try to see what is really happening outside of Bohemian Grove, I
right,
guess you
right.
might
I
say.
should clarify that. Yeah, I don't want people thinking that Greg's actually
I'm
going
not
in.
in.
You're not going inside. I mean, but no, you're sitting outside the property as the vehicles pull in and all the different guests that are arriving, and you actually get to speak to some of the locals, which I want to dive into. I think that's really cool and something that
Sure. Now,
a lot of people talk about.
yeah, I have asked a couple of the members to, hey, can I come? Can I come inside? So if they ever invited me inside, I probably would go inside and check it out.
I
But
hope you would.
yeah,
I hope you do go if they invite you.
I've asked, and they
Be
just laugh it
amazing.
off, and yeah, but
Yeah, for sure.
that's
Like
cool.
I'd love to see I'd love to get your take if you actually did get involved in there. So like got invited in there to see it. I think that
Yeah,
would be
let's
great.
just go in there and check it out, drink their good wine, and hang out
For
with them
sure.
and see what's
Right.
going on.
Right.
But
So, if just in case some of my followers don't know what Bohemian Grove is, can you give them like a little bit of a history of when it started and its origins and its kind of its roots and all that? Can you just give us a general overview to kind of let people know that may not know anything about this place or subject?
sure. So the really we're talking about the Bohemian Club. So the Bohemian Club was a group of just entertainments. They were male journalists, people who loved the theater, and that's really where it all really got started. And all these people would go out and they would just hang out in the in the woods, put on plays, things like that. So it was a very artsy type of gathering. There's been many notable people. So it actually started in the early 1800s, or I'm sorry, in the late 1800s, not the early 1800s, as far as we know. So they've been gathering, I believe, since about 1893. And that started in John Muir Woods, which we know anyone who knows about California, they would probably know that. But the history of the Bohemian Grove dates back to 1872, actually. And so that's when it all got started. Again, just a bunch of people hanging out, journalists. It wasn't what it is now. It was just, as far as what their books say, what their annals say here, and I got volume 4 here. So I've been reading up on who is the Bohemian Club, what are they doing? It's these people are just going out there to throw away their cares, what they call dull care. They have this owl, which is on pretty much inside of everything that you read. They call it a deity. I don't know how good that's going to show up there, but this is right from volume 4. So it is a deity to them,
right?
whatever.
And he
Deity,
does
yeah,
go
whatever
by
it is.
he does go by the name of Moloch, and he is
He does
actually
not.
he does
No,
not.
he
Are
does
you?
not.
Oh, okay. Because
He
I
does
thought I
not.
heard that
No.
in the documentary, and that he is actually
Yes.
mentioned in the Bible.
Correct. Now, that's where it gets a little, is it not? Are they hiding it? Now, technically, no, they don't call the owl Moloch. Alex Jones does, and I know some other people do. The first time that I ever thought about, oh, maybe it's not, because I watched the same video you did. My research started there too. And then I read the other guy's book, Mr. Mike Hansen. And this is a great book for anybody that really wants to know what the Bohemian Club is, where they started, all that good stuff. Heavily researched. Mike Hansen is the other guy that was, quote unquote, snuck into the Bohemian Grove. I think it's recently come out that they were actually invited in, or they were let in by some people.
Mhm.
But so the Moloch ties are very, very loose. Now, they do have a play, one of the earliest Bohemian Club plays that was played at the Bohemian Grove, did have the character named Moloch in it, but the Bohemian Club itself does not refer to the owl as Moloch. One can make those ties, because if you look at the Moloch thing, the human sacrifices, sacrificing babies before Moloch, before Baal, and there are some similarities. But if you were to ask any Bohemian Club member, which we'll talk about that later on too, because I have something I forgot to mention about that earlier, but there is some loose ties between Moloch and this owl. But if you were to ask anyone from the Bohemian Club, if you were to read any of their books, you're not going to find where they say that the Moloch is the owl.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
Wow. So they as the members of the club, and that from what you've researched in the books, do they have a
Yes,
name for that owl, or is it just that's their
just the owl.
just
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. The owl, they call, yeah. That's basically it. Yeah, that's it's in some of their plays, quote unquote plays, which I've read some of their plays, and they're pretty out there too. But it is a lot of there's some sacrificing and things
For
like that
sure,
that are
yeah,
going
yeah.
on, which we'll talk about more as we talk about the quote unquote cremation of care. We can talk a little bit more about that, but that's one of the reasons why I've been currently working on a book to kind of document some of these things that I've pulled not only from Mike Hansen's book, from the Bohemian Club's own books, and also from Alex Jones's book, a very little known book, but this is an awesome book, by the way, which does focus on September 11th, but at the very end, Alex Jones talks about his trip, his experience inside of the Bohemian Grove in
Okay.
2000. So definitely these are great. If you're looking for any research, these are two great books by two people that were there, that filmed it. The only reason I know about the cremation of care is because these two guys filmed it. Now I know that there were news stories written previously. That's
Hmm.
covered. A lot of that is covered in this book. So again, if you're interested in learning more about the Grove, this is the book you want to get. It's a great starting place. Mike Hansen is on Facebook. He's very accessible, very nice guy, very humble guy. And, and he's a Texan too. So they're all Texans. I know we got some fellow Texans probably watching this here too.
Oh,
So
for sure,
that's
yeah.
always awesome.
And so basically, I know that when I first saw the Alex Jones documentary, he was very heavy on saying that he snuck in and that he snuck in the woods and all of this. From your research, is it so you're saying that he was actually invited in by members, or was he snuck in by members, or what can you
Yeah,
tell us about that?
Yeah, recently he did come out, I believe, and said that, they were let in. Of course, it's all sources. So at that time, obviously, the people that are helping him get in, he's not going to say, yeah, these people let me in, blah, blah, blah.
Right,
Right.
right.
So, I mean, people think, oh, Alex Jones lied. He lied. It's like, no, man. If you know how sources work, if you know how that thing works, they're not just going to, say, hey, here's how we got in. Here's what we did, blah, blah, blah. No, dude. The biggest thing to take away from Alex Jones is look at the footage. You now have access to that footage. You can watch that
Exactly.
footage of the cremation of care and decide for yourself. What do you think is going on there? I mean, when you watch this footage, and I sounds like you have, if you've seen his
Oh, for sure.
his
Yes.
film.
Yep.
I mean, when I watched it, it brought, I thought, this is Moloch, this is Baal, they're sacrificing a baby up there. And when I watched, when I was watching it and then I watched it again, and I read a couple books, but the more research that I did, the more I strayed away from the Moloch theory. They're sacrificing babies, sacrificing real people. Their view is they're sacrificing care. So every year they sacrifice care. Now, care just happens to be in a human form that they burn in front of a giant 40-foot owl, right? So, I mean, these are the facts. So it's really good to kind of separate some of the things that we know, some of the things that I thought were happening there, and then when you research it more, you kind of, at least me, I should. There's so many different aspects. My mind is racing because I've spoken with people who don't want to be mentioned, probably, but there's a lot of different theories about what happens there. So it can be from just a bunch of guys hanging out. It's a golf course. It's been called that. It's just where people hang out. The rich and famous people, they're hanging out there, chatting, and they're schmoozing, right? And we've also heard some theories that they get people there so they can blackmail them, right? They
I've
just
heard
catch
that
them,
too.
they
Yep.
get them all wasted, and then they take photos or take video and say, hey, okay, now guess what you're going to do? You're going to do what we want you to do. So there's those theories. That's what I call the old Godfather theory, the Godfather 2 theory. So it's pretty much, the guy wakes up and he's like, there's this hooker that's dead and he didn't know what the hell happened. Well, hey, we're going to help you out. You're on our side now, type of thing. So there's those theories. There's the prostitutes. The prostitution is more than a theory, I would say. I believe there is a lot to that theory there. And it was wide open up until Alex Jones came in. Once Alex Jones came in, it's like the gates kind of shut. So the people that let him in, which I don't know if he's revealed who those people are or the exact theory, there were actually 3 people that went in. There was another guy named John Ronson. And the first time that I realized that there were 3 people was in Mike Hansen's book. So Mike Hansen actually covers a lot of that stuff in there. John Ronson was the 3rd guy that was let in there, and he's a British filmmaker too, I think. But so they all got in there, and a lot of they saw a lot of this stuff, a lot of stuff. Alex Jones, I remember because I was listening to Alex Jones's show back then. I haven't really listened to it much in the last
Neither
couple
have
of
I.
years, but
I'm the same as you. I was really heavy into him years ago, but I've kind
yeah.
of drifted away from there a little bit. So I'm right in the same boat as you.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, once I started, it was like, the sensationalism, just my views, but it was really the Crowley case that was like the end of it. And like, hey, you're not covering that, dude. Like you're not what I'm looking for. Nothing wrong with that. I think it's a good starting place for people who, want to get who want more of an entertaining view of it. And unfortunately, that's not what I'm looking for. It's not the type of books that I write. I don't write entertaining books. My videos are probably not going to be very entertaining. It's for research. It's for educational purposes. Reading Mike Hanson's book really taught me that, and it brought me back to my old journalism days, where it's like, high school journalism days, and junior high journalism days, whatever. But it brought me back to that. It's like, no, you know what, man, if you really want to help people understand what's going on there, just be honest. Just, there's nothing, you don't have to sensationalize this stuff. Let me tell you, the Bohemian Club, the Bohemian Grove, it is sensational, even if you just keep it at the very bare bones. So the
For
more
sure.
research that I do, I'm like, this is freaking weird stuff.
Well, it
Right?
definitely is, but I find it very interesting. Like when you first we started talking, that you said it didn't start off being what people think it as of it is now. It was
Right.
more of an artist place, and that's what my research really surprised me too when I started digging into it. Is because I always thought that it was created and it was a a place where everybody met and dark things happened, but that's not the case, as you said, and even I found that out. Is that it was basically a lot of artists and all forms of celebrities in that going there, and as you said, it was basically just a retreat for them. But I also do believe that over the years it's taken a different turn. That's what
Correct.
I'm believing, and so what do you think? Like I think over the years it may have started off as just a get together for the rich and to get a retreat. But what do you think? Like, do you think it's been corrupted and poisoned as the years went on? Is that where your research has kind of brought you?
Yeah, that's where it's kind of brought me, where it's kind of grown into this big thing, to this owl's nest. These spiders. They always talk about weaving spiders coming on here, but all they do is weave things. So they are the spiders, really. And it's like this big cobwebs here, cobwebs there, spider over here, spider over there, and all these different factions, all these different groups. But yeah, it does really seem like now, at least, maybe within the last 50 or so years, maybe even longer. Maybe I really don't know exactly when this started, but it does look like, it kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say it got taken over, but it does look like it became this breeding ground, this training ground
Hmm.
for the future presidents, for the future politicians, a way to get people into your pocket, a way to recruit people, similar to the Skull and Bones, to all of those kind of cults or groups, whatever you want to call them. I think the Bohemian Club is very similar to that. On the front, on the face, it's one thing. So, even may even say that the Freemasons are kind of like that too. On the face, when you look at it, oh, it's just a bunch of people, it's just a group, people hanging out, and there's always stuff happening when the doors are closed behind
Exactly.
those curtains and everything. So I think that's where it gets a little
Well,
tricky. And
that's the
yeah,
way that I see it, Greg, because and I've always said this to people that it's I don't believe do I believe everybody that's at the Bohemian that goes to the Bohemian Grove is into some dark stuff and compromise. No, I don't believe that. And I just as you I'm glad you brought that up with the Freemasons and that because I think in everything you're going to find good and bad in every group. You're going to have good Freemasons, you're going to have bad Freemasons, you're going to have it's like with religion, you're going to have good Catholics or whatever, and then you're going to have the side that's the crazy cult side of it. And I think that's with the skull and bones and everything. I don't think every member is in on it or knows basically is a quote where the bodies are buried kind of thing. So I
right.
definitely think I agree with you that it's probably I don't think it's all members, but do I still do believe that there is I would be very naive, I think, of myself to believe that at the Bohemian Grove, there's not some shady deals going on or being discussed.
Yeah, and you can find that, if you're looking for public stuff, about that, what they're doing there, that it's not just a bunch of people hanging out. Look up the lakeside chats. So if you look at the lakeside chats, you will pretty much see exactly they are discussing business. They're not supposed to be discussing, government business. So they're very careful, cautious about that. It's like a Bilderberg West. It's been called that. My friend Sean still calls it that. And it's like, wow, yeah, that makes sense. They go to the Bilderberg in June. Then in the second week of July, they're here in California in Monterio, which is a very small poor place. It's like, it's really weird that they're here and what this town has done. And it's like they purposely picked this town here. They didn't start here either, like we just talked about. They've been moving their locations. Their 2 week summer encampment has moved, but since at least the 1900s, this is where they've been, and it's only males. So and you know what, there's nothing wrong with that. If they just want it to be the guys for 2 weeks, that's great. But as a married man, man, that's hard for me to be without my wife or
I
without a
agree.
female companion for 2 weeks. That's a long time, I'll tell you. A couple
Right.
hours is that's enough for me, but for 2 weeks. Yes. And so when the prostitute theory started coming out and you started looking into it, where people were actually pointing out to me where the prostitutes were. Oh yeah, they would meet over here. They'd be at the golf course down here. They sign up here. They've been caught here. There's been weird things happening here. So Monterey, if anybody does want to go to Monterey, California, it is an interesting area. It's a very small town. A lot of the locals do not like what they're doing. Obviously, they know what's going on. There's a lot of other things going on in that small town too, but it's a nice little cute town. And it's definitely a place worth checking out. But it is really it's a very poor place too. And I don't know if you know this, the Las Vegas shooter, the quote unquote Las Vegas shooter,
Right.
if you
Right.
believe that, whatever. I think his brother actually lived in that area too. So it's a strange coincidence, just a coincidence, but it's a very strange area. And it just seems like, why are they here? Right? We always talk about what are they doing, but why this location? What are they doing here? 2,700 acres is the size of this Bohemian Grove property. That's
That is
huge.
huge.
That's
Oh, for
huge.
sure. Yeah. And so as you were saying, you've been there many times, and you spoke to the locals and got their thoughts on, like, are they happy
Yes.
that they're there, or do they not care? What is the
Most of them
general?
do not. Yeah, the general opinion from the locals that I've personally spoke to is they do not like it, but they also laugh at the whole Moloch theory. They laugh at, oh, you guys think they're doing this there, they're raping kids there, they're sacrificing people there. So they've heard it all, right? But they're like, well, we live here, so we must know what's going. They don't know what's going on either. Unless you're inside of there when this stuff is happening, you don't know what's going on.
Exactly.
So that's why, hopefully I'll be able to put you in contact with someone who has, family that has been there, that may have been a member at some point too. So
That would be
we'll
amazing.
definitely, yeah, we'll talk about that later too. I'm pretty sure that I can make that happen. Um,
That would be amazing. I think that, yeah, you can't beat, like, hands on. You can't beat boots on the ground, and especially somebody that's been in there, or in that, like, knows that kind of thing. And I just, like, so you're like, see, that's really surprising, because I always thought that everybody referred to it as Moloch. Like, so that's really an Alex Jones thing, you think, right? That's kind of like where
correct.
he, and so, and we all know Alex Jones. If anybody's watched even one of his shows, he's very big into production and making a big noise and wanting to, he's over the top. And I don't think anybody, I think even Alex would agree with that. So it's definitely no surprise when he did this documentary that he really blew it up bigger than probably it was. But I also believe that what he saw there, probably has some truth to it too. And I know that when I saw the documentary and I saw that cremation of care ritual, it bothered me. It really did. It really did bother me. I mean, you have a bunch of really powerful elite people that run our world
Yeah.
burning an effigy. It's not a real person. I'm not saying it's a real child, but it's definitely an effigy of a child. That bothers me. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen some of the photos of the, it looks, I don't think it's wood. I think it's a metal. It's actually like a metal. This is the photo based on the photo that I've seen, but it looks more like, doesn't look like a child size from what I've seen there. And so, and when you watch the video, it's hard to really see because it's very, very blurry. But even then, it's like, it doesn't really look like a child size body. It looks like a adult sized body. So,
Okay.
but even that's even that's weird. I mean,
It
to
is.
burn care is what to say, hey, we're gonna throw away our cares, but hey, Rick, why don't you come on down, man? We got this wooden body, we got this effigy, and we're gonna. It's like Burning Man too, right? Don't they do? I don't know much about Burning Man, but
Right.
I believe they do something kind of similar to that. I mean, it's called Burning Man, right? So
Right.
they're burning something, but to burn away care, and not only that, to go to the point where you're sacrificing care in the form of a human. It's just kind of weird. Why not sacrifice it in, just a big pile of, I don't know, but it's just weird that they put it on this altar before a 40-foot owl. Like, why? What? A 40-foot owl? And then you have to remember, before the owl, they had a Buddha statue. So before there was an owl,
Really, I did not know this.
they had a
Wow.
70-foot. Let's see if I can get one of the best photos here. 70-foot owl. Or I'm sorry, 70-foot Buddha statue. So before the owl, they
Wow.
had this big Buddha statue. Now, this was made by the plaster of Paris. It's a replica, and I'm going to butcher this name, of the Kamakura Daibutsu. And it was eventually replaced by the owl in 1929 after years of deterioration. The photos can be found at the National Park in the Muir Woods National Monument Archives. So this was there, this 70-foot Buddhist, I call it a Buddhist statue, whatever you want to call it. This statue was there starting in 1892. So this was there. Obviously, it wasn't part. The owl, they say, is part of the plays that they do there, but this statue was there, and so it's like, what is this statue for, right? So, and they don't. It's mentioned like once in this book here that I have in their volume 4 book, and it's not. It's just kind of glossed over, but they do kind of mention it. I don't know if it was part of another play, but I mean, 70 feet, man, that's huge.
That's huge. And what I find really surprising is that Alex Jones did not make any mention of no 70-foot Buddha statue that I remember in his documentary. He really honed in on the owl and that. But
Yeah.
I mean, now I didn't know that there was a Buddha statue. That makes my brain go in a whole different direction in a way. And my brain kind of goes, Greg, with that
Yeah.
is maybe at the beginning where it was the artist and it was more of a retreat for the elite and stuff like that. They were definitely worshiping the Buddha or whatever, like that statue. And maybe the sign of the darker coming into the grove and the more nefarious things happening, it kind of went to the owl statue. That's just me, where my brain goes. I could be totally off. I'm willing to accept that, but it's kind of strange that why not replace it with another Buddha if that one was falling apart? Why the owl?
Right. Why the owl? I think that's it. I think that's a great question. I've asked myself that question too. Why the owl? Now we know that the owl was obviously part of their plays that they do. So the cremation of care, we know that's a big thing. That actually kicks off the 2-week encampment. The only reason I can think that Alex Jones didn't really talk about it is Alex Jones really talks about his experience there and what he saw there, right? So he's really focused on that, which is great because that's what really matters. Alex Jones has been there. He's chatted with these people. He talked about Danny Glover being there while he was there, and that there were some members, some older white members, who were not very happy that Danny Glover was there.
Right.
Take that for whatever you want,
And
but
Alex also said in the documentary too, when he was in there, and you have to take his word for this because that's all we have, but that while he was there, he was getting proposed for sexual things with a lot of the older men, and he did say that in the documentary. I'm not making that up. Watch it if you don't believe me, but he does say that, and I think he even says that in a Joe Rogan interview, kind of when they're talking about it.
That's a great one to watch too. That's
exactly.
A great interview.
And he was promote like some men were offering, if you believe him. So there's definitely something going on there that's not on the up and up in a way. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying that it's kind of when you start looking at it, it starts getting a little bit darker of a tone to it.
Oh yeah, I mean, he talks about they purposely dressed up. When they went in there, they purposely dressed up like that.
Yeah.
With a nice suit, the khakis and nice pants, and just kind of acting like that, hey, what's going on? We're here, blah 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 blah,
Yeah.
and yeah, yeah. So he knew what he was doing.
Oh, for sure. And the amount of like he was saying in the documentary, the amount of security that was there, that it's
Hmm.
like cameras everywhere and guard booths everywhere and all of that. And I kind of get why they have to have all of that if they have the elites of the world going there and a lot of the Hollywood actors and all of that kind of stuff. Do you know any of the members off the top of your head like that people would recognize their names that have been there or go there or anything like that?
Yeah, so there's a ton of members. There's honorary members. Let me see. There's a huge list of different people that have been there, from Mark Twain to Jack London, Charlie Chaplin, Bing Crosby, Barry Goldwater, Nelson Rockefeller, Walter Cronkite, Henry Kissinger, former
Wow.
German Chancellor Helmut Schmidt, obviously Richard Nixon. A lot of people know that. The Bushes,
Mm-hmm.
um, Ford, Eisenhower, Prince Philip, and Herbert Hoover. And then I was really sad to learn that one of my heroes, um, Walt Disney, has been there.
Oh,
So
really?
there is the photograph you can see next to the owl. That's Walt Disney's drawing, and he actually drew Mickey Mouse there. And so Walt Disney was there in 1936. This is from a very famous book written by Bob Thomas. I actually bought the book because I just wanted to learn more about Walt Disney. So we were in Disneyland a couple years ago. I bought this book and I'm reading it, and he just talks about Walt Disney being at the Bohemian Grove. And Walt Disney was very connected. When during World War II, when everything was happening, Disney Studios was actually used as a military base,
That's
and Walt
correct.
Disney helped make a lot of the propaganda films too. But just reading this book, Bob Thomas, Walt Disney, and American Original. It's very short, couple pages, but it talks about how Walt Disney came up with the snoring scene from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So Walt Disney is at the Grove there. He's hearing people snoring. And so when you watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and you see the scene of the dwarfs snoring, that scene is actually based on Walt Disney's experience inside Bohemian Grove. It's pretty
Wow.
interesting.
Yeah, that is. I didn't. Yeah. See, that's why I love talking to you, Greg, because the things I find out are just really cool and amazing. I didn't know that he was there either, and it's really a who's who of every
Also,
era.
Ronald Reagan too. And the funny tie between Ronald Reagan and Walt Disney is that when Disney opened, when Disney Land opened, Ronald Reagan was actually part of the TV show that they were putting on and everything. And I just thought that was kind of weird that Walt, it's just a weird connection that the future president, when Ronald Reagan would just happen to be there, and
Right.
Walt Disney was planning this utopia. That's what the Epcot Center in Disney World, that's what it was supposed to be. Obviously, it was something different, but there is a documentary that Walt Disney talks about that, and it's basically, I don't know, maybe like a socialist haven, but like when you think of socialism in a good form, which I don't, but if you do, Walt Disney had this idea of a self-sustaining place, and that's what Disney World, the Epcot Center, that's what it was supposed to be. Now, after he died, they changed everything. And there's a lot of weird theories about his death too, but
Oh,
um,
that's
I'll
another
stick to the
rabbit
to the
hole.
Grove. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
stick to the
like
Grove on this.
and just to wrap up the Disney thing too, and you can do a lot of research into Disney, which I did do too, and
Nice.
like kind of looked into it because you start seeing that it's a lot of weird stuff going in like when you look into Disney, it's really strange. And I was never growing up a huge Disney fan. Like I know a lot of people are. They love the all Bambi and all of those shows, and I mean I like
These are
some of them.
dark movies.
They are, and I find out with a lot of Disney stuff, but I was never really into it as a kid, so I never really knew much about it. But then as I got older, and you could even see like people will show pictures with like some of the movies they got, like, yeah, it looks like genital parts that you see in these movies. You see writing in the clouds, like sex and all of that. There's some really weird stuff going on with Disney. It's definitely something I think me and you should do a show on and look at, because I think it'd be a great show.
Yep. There's one, there's a Don, or not Donald Duck, Scrooge Duck, and he's sitting in on this table, and in the back is one of those like eye charts,
Hmm.
and if you read the eye chart, it says ask about Illuminati. And so it's like ASK and then like each line. But if you read it out, that's what it says. And there's some great videos out there where they've done all that and they've looked at it. And I was like, wow, okay, that's pretty interesting stuff.
It
You know,
is.
the whole
Yep.
symbolism. Now I'm curious to know how much of the symbolism was when Walt Disney was still with us, or how much of that was after he died. And it's the same thing that I wonder about the Grove, is how much of what we see today, or what Alex Jones filmed, is a part of what the Grove, or what the Bohemian Club was when it first started, and how much of that has been added in since all of the founding members died, I guess.
Right. No, that's a great question. And because we were talking about the cremation of care, and from the research you've done, is there any other weird rituals that they do there, or ceremonies, or is that basically like the one that has people concerned the most and wondering what the hell they're doing over there?
I think that's the big one. They have jinx, so they have the druid jinx, they have the high jinx, the low jinx, the summer jinx. So they have all these weird plays, and we've read some of those. But you can go to my website actually. If you go to whatistruth.wordpress.com, whatistruth911.wordpress.com, I have like a whole I'm compiling all of the Bohemian Club documents and plays and everything. So we have those, and you can read those, and they're weird. They're really weird, I would say. So they have a lot of weird plays, but nothing like the cremation of care. Nothing like
Right.
that.
And,
That I've seen. You
and
know.
that's where a lot of the Bohemian Grove traditions and rituals and stuff come from. It's very Druidic, right? That's where it stems from. It's kind of got like different elements, but it's kind of got Druidic. I'm not even sure how you pronounce that. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Mashed
Yeah.
into it, and it's very um, heavy into that. And so I really do find the cremation of care disturbing. I do, because why are you destroying care? Like, care is what everybody needs to have. A lot of people don't have. But I
Right.
mean, that's a big deal to me, and that's what worries me, is that whether I'm sure that some people go there just for to see the play and they don't really know the meaning, but I definitely know that there's people higher up in that organization, the Bohemian Grove or Club, or whatever they want to call it. And to me, there's a different, like, they're take some of them must, I think, are just my opinion, that they are taking this serious, and it is a serious ritual, and I find it very disturbing. Like, when you got powerful people, these are people that run the world. Like, I'm not talking about it's like your local shop owner. These are people of government and entertainment and the highest people all around doing a ceremony like this. It's very disturbing, at least to me.
That's right. No, yeah, you're definitely right. I mean, they've been doing the cremation of care since, since the 1800s too. So it has changed. The first year was 1877. So I mean, they've been doing this for a long time. Actually, no, the cremation of care may have came in a little bit later, but definitely around 1890 or so was when they started doing this sacrificing of care. And the play itself has changed over the years, but it's still kind of weird what they're doing. And yeah, why sacrifice care, and why do you have to sacrifice it as a human being? Care couldn't be anything else. It has to be a person in the form of a
Right.
human being. It has to burn with all, like you said, with all these druids that are standing out there, and they burn it before this 40-foot owl because they're praying to this owl, or they're worshiping this owl. It's like they're appeasing this owl, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and where have we seen that? Well, that's what Moloch, Baal, um, all of those things, it's always been like that, to sacrifice something. We
Right.
talk about human sacrifices. That's what cults do. So to me, it is very satanic. As a Christian, it
Mm-hmm.
definitely bothers me too. I mean, it's like playing with a Ouija board. Don't do it, please don't do that. And if
Yep.
you're gonna do it, wait until I leave because I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to see. I won't even watch a video of the Ouija board if people are talking about it or playing it or anything like that. I won't even watch that. That's just my preference. So watching the Cremation of Care that Alex Jones filmed is hard to watch. I've only watched it a couple times and I really don't have any interest in ever watching it
Right.
ever.
It is.
So
It is. It's disturbing, and
yeah, it
just to
is.
let people know that maybe haven't seen the video, like these, it's not like a little play that they put on a little stage. I just want to give people a visual. It's not like a little teeny wooden stage where you got a couple of actors on. These people go all out. Like I mean, they're in front of a gigantic stone owl. They're all dressed in weird robes, and there's druids like in robes behind them, and then they bring the actual effigy like on a boat across the river, and they bring it's a very dark to me. It's to me as a Christian, it's very satanic looking, and that's the way I see it. And I could be wrong. Maybe they don't see it that way, but I do. And I think anytime you're
Yep.
cremating anything, it may not be a real person, but I'm sure somewhere in history, in our past, they were real sacrifices that they were doing. They could be doing real sacrifices now somewhere. We don't know. Like, I mean, but it always seems to be with children because children's innocence, I think. And then you're sacrificing something that's innocent as a child and you're calling it care. And to
Yeah.
me, where my brain goes is that these elites are, it gives them like a green light in my eyes to do whatever they want to the rest of the world and they don't care. That's as simple as I can put it. They're sacrificing. It's white. It's like clean. It's exempting them from the consequences, and I think that's just very demonic. If I'm being honest, that's the way I saw it when I see it when I see that ritual.
Yes, yeah. And the first cremation of care, which was part of the quote unquote Grove play, happened in 1881. Um, and it was, yeah, and then it just kind of got, so it has kind of moved in. When it first started, the cremation of care was just a play. It wasn't the big bang that it really is now, but it definitely morphed. So throughout everything, all of the different changes, this is one thing that has been there for a very long time. So I don't know, that to me is like, okay, well, maybe, maybe they've been doing this some of this evil stuff, this dark stuff, maybe they've been doing this since way back then,
Right.
and people just haven't caught on to it.
Right.
So it was good that Alex Jones filmed that, because video, obviously, if he would have went in there and just said, hey, you guys want to hear what's going on, people would have shrugged it off like they've been doing since the 70s. So I think Alex Jones had a lot of help getting in there and getting that footage. And I don't know. The weird thing about the whole footage actually is that these are VHS tapes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these aren't like, I mean, and picture yourself with a big, how big a VHS tape
Oh,
is.
for
And so to
sure.
get a
Yeah.
camcorder in there, to get a camcorder in there is not easy either. So when we talk about the security and all that stuff, it's just like, did the Bohemian Club want this to get out there in 2000? Did they want to put the focus on that? It just, there's a lot of weird things like that kind of bring it up where, were there factions kind of growing, and one faction within the club wanted to kind of, or was there another faction that said, okay, you guys are done now, you've done too much, you had presidents here, you've had too many people here, we need to cut this thing out? Because after that, it just seems like the Grove, the club, kind of fades off. And the timing, 1 year before September 11th, when George Bush gets into office, having that video come out can really take a lot of pressure off. And the more Democratic leaning people jumped on it. And so, obviously, because they didn't like Bush, they didn't like, so they really could use that to make it a Republican thing, where it's really not. It's not a Republican. These people don't care. When you talk about, these groups and all that stuff, that you think they really care that you're a Democrat or a Republican? You really think they care about your views on this stuff? I mean, they care about what they can get out of you. What can they use you for? What can you bring to the table? Do you think they're going to turn you off because you're not a part of their, party? And it's like, they don't care about blue, they don't care about red, they care about green, they care about power, they care about black. They're not interested in just that. All of that to me is for us, right? They want us to be in
Exactly.
those boxes so they can move us around like little chess pieces.
Right, and I totally agree with that. Like, to me, that I've always said that politics was all a show, and that I think they give us a lot of stuff to distract us from looking too deep into it. You got sports, you got music, you got TV, and people aren't paying attention anymore. At least that's the experience that I have, and you even try to wake people up to what is going on around the what you've researched. And I can say, and I've said it on the other episodes, that I have people in my own family that I've tried to quote people say wake up or give the pill, the red pill to wake them up, and they want no part of it. Like, they really don't. They're happy with where they're at, and I've never been that way. I've always known that there's things going on behind the scenes, and that they're distracting us. I truly believe that they're always throwing a distraction at us, making us look left when we should be looking right, and
Hmm.
and I just believe that, and I think that's probably what's happened with the Grove a lot, and that does make sense. Like, it's kind of coincidental that Alex Jones is he got in there and filmed all of this at a time when it really would have been a benefit, and I think that's really a good point that you brought up.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, right after that, Alex Jones, he pretty much took off after that point, and it was just like, he was just, yeah, everything to me kind of changed for him from that point. And obviously he could use that, and a lot of people I think were actually using him for that and saying, hey, we got you in here. What are you going to do for us now too?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of theories only Alex Jones knows. I don't know what's in Alex Jones's heart. So I mean, when I hear these theories, he's COINTEL, he's this and that, I think of the things that I've been accused of, and how would I want people to, how would I react if somebody accuses me of that? I can't prove that I'm not COINTELPRO if I'm not COINTELPRO,
Yep.
and if they
Yep.
can't prove that I am, if they're just saying that I am, then it's just like, but can't prove it, then it's just the argument pretty much ends there. So I never really bought into that, to all the anti Alex Jones. I mean, there's websites dedicated to Alex Jones, just, that talk about this, talk about that. And I remember I spent years pressing people on it. Like, okay, you say he's this, show me something. And there was just really nothing that I couldn't find really anything there to really
Right.
prove any of that stuff. And at the end, I'm like, I've wasted so much time trying to look at all the stuff that people say proves Alex Jones is COINTELPRO because he purchased time from a satellite from ABC that makes him part of ABC, which is part of the CIA, which makes Alex Jones. I mean, all these weird dots that are, and I'm just like, you know what, man? How would I want people to treat? I have to treat people the way that I would want to be treated. And I don't always do that. I do fail many, many times, but I always need to go back to that. And so that's why I still have my Alex Jones bumper sticker on my car.
Mm-hmm.
It's still there. I have no plans on taking it off, even though I have many people that have told me you need to take that thing off.
Yep.
It's not coming off. Alex Jones did a lot for me. He helped me do my own research for better or for worse, because when he would make claims that I thought were true and people would call me out on it and I couldn't back it up, I'd go research it, find out that it wasn't true. And I figured, well, you know what, let me take Alex Jones out of my research process. Instead of being lazy and just depending on what Alex Jones says, why don't I just go and do my own research on this stuff? Alex,
Right.
that's what Alex Jones does. He gets these people on and he has them tell their stories basically, and he throws in his views and all that stuff. Well, I'll go directly to the source. So that's when I stopped thinking of Alex Jones as a source, more of as just an entertaining host, pretty
Right.
much. And
And I
that's
agree.
why I was like, well, yeah. So I turned him off pretty
I
much
agree,
after
and
that.
that's the thing that I like to bring up people with Alex Jones too when they go at him is like, yeah, he does go off the rail. I'm fully admit he goes off the
He's
rails.
entertaining. Yeah,
He's
he's really
entertaining. He
entertaining.
goes on rants, and he has a lot of issues I think going on with his drinking and stuff like that. I truly
Yeah,
I think that, and but also back up Joe Rogan when he was saying that people don't give Alex Jones enough credit because a lot of
it's
the
true.
stuff that he talks about, he can prove it, and he's right about a lot of stuff. And you can hate him, love him, do whatever you want, but you can't take that away from him. He's been right and exposed a lot of things that have went on. And I think that kind of gets buried by people when he got pulled off the internet and off of YouTube and all of that. Like, people don't realize he was huge on YouTube. He was a
Yeah,
huge force with YouTube, and they scrubbed him from it and the internet. They're trying to, but he's got a lot of stuff right in his career, and that can't be taken away from him.
that's right. That's right. I got a YouTube strike, I think, for replaying some of his stuff, I think, too,
Oh,
at some
really?
point. Yeah, and that was, and I was like, because people were saying, man, I'm getting scrubbed, they're getting scrubbed, and I'm like, "Look, I'm not getting scrubbed, nothing's happening to me. I'll just keep posting this stuff, and then eventually it does kind of catch up to
Oh, for
you.
sure, right?
But
Yeah,
yeah, it's like, well, okay, well, I mean, what do they care? What are they scared of? If Alex Jones is just this kooky nut and he's doing all this, why wouldn't you want that out there? Why wouldn't you want that out there so people can see that side and figure it out for themselves,
right.
right? And that's before all this fact checker drama and all that stuff, where now everything has to be fact checked, and it's like, we're looking things up, we're not saying anything until we can actually, do the research. But it gets to the other point where you had so many people putting out fake stories and putting
Mm-hmm.
out fake stuff, so that way people would look at those fake stories and think, oh man, oh, these people are crazy, so they would associate the fake stories with somebody who is telling truth, or they would take a real story, add in some fake stuff, and then make that and push that out there, push the fake stuff out there. And so I saw that a lot of the fake stuff being pushed out there. And it's like, why are you guys pushing this out there unless you want it to be discredited? So that way you can come back and say, well, see, the fake story was fake, so Alex Jones must be fake. And it's
Exactly.
like, no, you're not putting it into the proper context. With the Jesse Ventura issue, everything got really crazy. That's when I really started to see it's like, wow, there are some powerful people out there who will come after you if you start speaking out against certain things. Specifically, September 11th,
Mm-hmm.
Jesse Ventura was speaking out against September 11th and John F. Kennedy for years and years, and he was a governor. So it's like they went after him, they went after Alex Jones, they went after all of these people, and it's happened to Donald Trump. It's like it's the same thing. It's the same program, and it's just different people. Now it's happening to us, to
Yeah.
all of us.
Yeah.
Now it can happen to all of us. That fact checker thing is not just something. They're targeting you. If you get one of those fact checker notices, they're targeting you. And I've fallen for fake stories. You know, um, that stuff happens,
Oh, for
and
sure.
you just
Right.
move on from it. But there's nothing wrong with saying, hey man, I fell for this fake story. But I think what they want is so that you just shut up, because you don't want to be wrong. I know so many people privately think one way, publicly a completely different thing. They won't say anything in public. You get them alone in private, sit down, have a glass of wine or something, and you're like, wow, okay, this person, really has some views, but they're scared to say it. They're scared
It's
to speak
true.
out against stuff.
I
It's
I have
sad. It's
I have friends and I have friends that are like that I've wanted them to come on my podcast because they have great views. They see what's going on in the world, and I really enjoy what their views, and I think they're nailing it when they talk about it. But as soon as you want them to go public or come onto a podcast, they're like, no, no,
yeah,
no, 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 I'm not doing that. And that's like,
yeah, not doing that. Yeah.
right, and that's the problem, is that people now, I find, are so scared to uh, say how they really feel, and I think that's definitely by design. I think
Hmm.
that they're conditioning us that way. I have a lot, like, I mean, I gotta watch myself because I'll end up going on a rant, because I have to pull myself back every once in a while, because I see what's going on around me in the world, and I don't see people um caring. Like, I mean, and see, it goes back to Bohemian Grove, the sacrifice of carrots, somehow wrapped around to that. But I just
Right.
don't see people in the world caring anymore. And then people will say, "Oh, so you think everybody's bad?" And I'm like, I never said that. They always do that to me. They kind of
Right.
throw it at, like, if you believe a little bit of this, you're all in. And I'm like, no, that's not true. I mean,
Right.
I just see that the world is lacking empathy and care, and I don't know what's going on, Greg, man. I keep saying it all the time jokingly. I want to go back to the 80s. I mean, I like the 80s. And I don't know what's
I'm with
going
you.
yeah, like I don't know what's going on now, but it's crazy. Like, and so that's why when I saw the Sacrifice of Care from the Bohemian Grove, I always think that maybe we don't buy into that sacrifice. Maybe we don't buy into the druid aspect of it and that. But I always tell people that doesn't mean that other people in this world don't buy into it and don't put a lot of energy into that. And I always feel that the more people that are inserting their energy and their life force into something, it's making it powerful. And I just believe that. I just believe that all our energy is connected in this world. We're all connected as one. And call me crazy, but that's what I think. And I think people that are putting energy into these dark rituals, it gives them power. And I don't know, maybe it affects all of us in some way. What do you think? Do I sound crazy? I
Yep.
probably do.
Nope. Nope. I mean, as a Christian, I read the Bible, and we all came from one man and
Mm-hmm.
one woman. We, like you said, we're all one. We're all from the same source. So
Mm-hmm.
what one of us does affect everybody else. And because now there's way more people in the world than when it first happened, it's chaos. It can be utter chaos. But just because we don't see it, there, doesn't mean that people don't care, right? I mean, you obviously know a lot of caring people,
I do.
that will probably never admit it, will never say that, you know what, Rick, you're probably right on this, and a lot of the times in my past experience with arguing with people, with close friends, with family, I've learned a lot. And a lot of what I've learned is what not to do, to not disrespect them, to not speak over. And that's difficult for me, especially as an Alex Jones fan, man. I was like I was talking over everybody. I thought I knew everything. I thought that I was right. And you know what? It doesn't matter if I'm right. I love my family. I love my friends. I love all people, regardless of what people think. Even if you hate me, I love people, man. I look at people and I see sadness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's man, after COVID, it was at a whole new level. You see it, man. You
Yep.
feel it. Whether you don't, even if you don't see it, you feel it
I
with
do. I
this
feel
COVID.
it. I do. I'm like you. I feel it.
Yeah, and it hurts. It hurts. And so sometimes we lash out when anger. It's like, you're bleeding. You're bleeding. Why don't you see? Why don't you bandage yourself up? And then, of course, I always have to go back to the scripture. Pluck the eye, take the thorn out of your own eye first, Greg, before you start telling everybody else. So, and it's difficult, and it is a learning process. And I think hopefully as I get older, I'm learning to kind of be more patient and to be more, just kind of, I don't want to say passive, but man, if they don't believe that, okay, fine. Maybe they don't believe it right now,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what I write. I write my books are for my family, are for my friends, are for good people, people that may not even be born yet.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to thirst, especially in this digital age, Rick. I mean, because you talk about 80s, man. There's no digital age like we have right now.
Never,
It's
never,
it's
never
it's
in history have we had we've never had access to as much information as we do now at our fingertips. That's a fact. We have you can Google anything or start diving into it, and we got information at our fingertips. What scares me, Greg, is that
yeah.
I don't see people using that power to research stuff. They're too busy watching movies and playing games, and I just don't find a lot of people willing to sit down and put the research in. And I always give the example. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mark Passio.
I
He's a
haven't, but I did hear you talk about him in the
right.
chat. I'm curious. Yeah.
You gotta check his YouTube channel, dude. He's amazing. He does lectures on all the stuff that we talk about, and he does a lecture on natural law that's 7 hours long. And I have recommended that lecture to all of my friends and family. And do you know how many
Look
people have
that up.
actually sat down and watched that 7 hours? Zero. And
Well,
I'm not.
I mean, that's a lot to ask them. 7 hours is a lot.
It's a long time to ask, and I've watched it like 4 times. I've put in more than a
Hmm.
day of my life total into watching that man's lecture on natural law, because it's a lot to absorb 7 hours. But I can't. I even try to compromise with people. I'm like, how about you watch an hour a day? Take you a week to watch it, and then you get. They won't even do that. I just find people We have a lot of power at our fingertips, a lot of way to research a lot of different things, and I don't see people doing it. Not at least I don't see it. You might see it. I know a few people like yourself and other people that do. I'm not saying a blanket statement that all people aren't, but I just
Sure.
find that a lot of
Sure.
people are not taking advantage of the amount of information we have, and I think we're losing the ability, and we could lose the ability very quickly to even be able to access that information down the road.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the media, the print media. That's why I'm still big on print, still big
Me
on
too.
paper and everything. It's hard to scrub that, without the book burnings like the old days and stuff like that. It's the whole modern day book burning is just doxing you, or just what do they call that when they it's a term where they shadow ban, right?
Shadow ban. Yep.
Shadow ban, yeah,
Yep.
all that stuff. Like that's basically book burning. That's modern
Yep.
day book burning. That's happening. Well, you know what? I can write a book and I can hand this to somebody, right? I don't have to worry about a fact checker. I don't have to worry about people, whatever. Just but maybe that's where we're going. So maybe sometimes to go forward, we have to go backward. Um, the more I work in this digital age, the more I'm really scared. I'm really scared about like you said, about the future, where we have so much information, but is it good information? Is it
Mm-hmm.
real information? And if I have the choice to watch a video, or to play a video game, or to do research, to watch a 7-hour video, or even a 1-hour video, I mean, some people, they just can't handle that. They can't process that. And so that's why it's good to hit them on all different fronts here too, because you know what, maybe they're not ready for that yet. Doesn't mean that they won't be. And that's where it's really up to us to kind of make sure we keep that door open. I fail at this sometimes, where I've argued, me and my brother. I love my brother, and we've gotten into arguments, and it's only as we get older, it's like, man, we love each other. Why are we fighting over
Mm-hmm.
this? We need to stick together. That's what they want. That's what these evil powers, what these evil forces want, is they want to separate us. They want to keep us separated like that. We can't let them do that. And so it's like, because then you're going to find yourself kind of isolated from your family, from the people that could actually help you, or maybe they isolate themselves away from you because they don't want to talk to you, because they know you're going to bring this topic up.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's all a big learning process. And I know everybody, this is a global thing. With the COVID thing, man, there is not one, unless you're living on a rock or Amish, or living somewhere far away. But even then, it's like, this has affected the world, and everybody has a side. Everybody has, anti-vaxxers versus vaxxers. And I'm like, man, I love my family. And if my family wants to vaccinate, I don't want to turn my back on them. I don't want to argue with my family. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so I grew up in a home where my stepdad was verbally abusive. All he would do was fight and try to argue and stuff. I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to. I don't, like you said, bringing things into this world. I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit there and like sacrifice something and bring that in. Bring those feelings in. But I just feel like the more that I get older, the more that I need to just kind of just share my view. And if I don't want to hear somebody's view, man, I just won't hear it. But I just gotten to the point where I'm just not going to argue with people over it now, and
Right.
that's difficult because I do love them, I do care, and I do want to show them, don't get the vaccination, or look at this, man, look at what they're doing at the Bohemian Club. Look at
Mm-hmm.
what these people are doing. They're making policy here. They're talking about our lives. They're dictating our lives. They're doing what I would consider pretty much as close to a human sacrifice that you can get without sacrificing a human.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes people just don't want to hear it. Maybe they don't want to hear it now. When Obama came in to the presidency, and I'm just going to
Yep.
charge my phone here. But when Obama came in, um, I had a lot of discussions. Sorry, I don't know.
That's okay.
Hopefully, it didn't cut my live feed or anything.
There you
But
go. No, you're good.
we had a lot of chats. All of my friends, all of the people that I was doing music with, they were all for it because all they saw was a black man And I'm like, that's racist. What do you mean you see it? Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares about that? I don't care about that. Man, I've seen more of that in this world, or in this world, in the last couple years. And I think that the Bohemian Club has become a big target of that now too, because it's only male,
Yep.
mostly white male, pretty much white male. But
Yep.
and so they're even under attack, and it's like, you're going to force them to have women if they don't want women. Does that really bother me? Why would I want to join a club that just wants to be men? If they want to do that, if a bunch of people want to be just white men and hanging out for 2 weeks, why should I care? Why should that affect me? Why should I try to force my views onto them, whether it's right or whether it's wrong? So with the Bohemian Club, we could have endless debates with so many different people. And that's what I love doing. I love talking about this. I love hearing people's views on this, because it's so different for each person. And I just think the more that we talk about it, the more that we research it, the more facts that people have access to. And we can just say, well, I would love for you to go to the library, but if you can't go to the library, here's the digital version of it. It's kind of the process,
Mm-hmm.
and read it. Like you said, go and watch Mark Passfield's book, or read, watch his actual videos. You're not telling me what's in his video. You're not telling me what's so great about him. You're saying,
Mm-hmm.
watch it, because obviously there's something there that had a strong impact on you
Oh,
there,
for
and you
sure.
want, and there's knowledge there that you got, that you want to share, because you want other people to know that, to have that knowledge too.
Yep.
That's a good thing. That's a positive thing. You know what
Yep.
I mean? And
And
so
I
we
never
used to
ask
go.
anybody to believe. Like, I'm not, when I say go watch one of his videos or one of his lectures, I don't expect everybody to like watch and go, you know what, he changed my life. But I always think that, at least check it out. I check if somebody recommends a book or
Mhm.
a documentary or anything, I will go and check it out and I'll make my own opinion on it. But I hunger for that type of knowledge and I thirst for it. I love to learn about stuff like that. So, and I'm like you in a lot of ways too, that I've tried to talk to my friends, some of my friends in my own family, and they don't want to sit down and watch even a 1 hour video or documentary that talks about the topics that we talk about. But I don't get angry anymore, but I always leave, like you said, I leave the door open. And then I'll bring it up to
Right.
them gradually once in a while, and I'll say, hey, you want to maybe check out this movie with me or something, this documentary or whatever. And then I just kind of hint at it, but I don't force the issue. And
Right.
hopefully one day they'll pick it up and they'll actually do a little bit of research and maybe like what they see. I just hope that someday they even take. I just find people don't even take the time. At least the people I talk to don't even
Yeah.
want to invest. Never mind 7 hours. As soon as I say 7 hours, they roll their eyes at me and they're like, "Oh, that's too long." And I'm like, "Okay, but you'll watch 7 hours of Netflix, no
It's true.
problem."
Good point.
And
Good
that
point there.
it's
Yeah.
true.
You'll binge watch a
Oh, for
TV
sure.
show in one.
Yeah, you'll watch a whole series in one night, but I ask you to look at something that's very important and that breaks down. It's so important to me. His natural law seminar changed my life. It really did. And I found a lot of the stuff he talked about was stuff that I already believed. It wasn't like he changed any of my views drastically. He just kind of cleared things up and made me realize that I wasn't as crazy as I thought it was the way I thought. And I just think people really benefit from some of the knowledge that he gets. Don't have to listen to. You don't have to believe everything he says. You don't have to. But I think it's worth checking out. And
Right.
I'm kind of in the boat where you are. It's just like, do you find the people that you're around, are they willing to look at documentaries and read books and that, or are they kind of turning their back and too busy with their own life type of thing?
I kind of find both. I think and it has a lot to do with the way that I approach them. So if I approach them like, man, you got to see this, you don't, you have to see this. The more forceful I am, the more resistant they're going to be
Me too.
towards it. So sometimes what I'll do is, we'll start talking, they'll start bringing up a topic. If they bring up a topic, then I'll try to suggest a video that, or, a book or something like that, that may kind of lead into that. If we're talking about missing people, maybe I'll bring up the whole missing 411 book.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about vaccinations and stuff like that, maybe I'll bring up some of the people that some of the doctors that have spoken out against the whole vaccination
Mm-hmm.
or bring up, things like that. So I've kind of changed my whole view, because I used to have, I'm going to hit everybody with this. They have to know this. You have to know these things
Yep.
here.
Yep.
And I've seen it, because I've been a victim of it too. Once it started happening to me and people are telling me what I should watch, or else I'm a sheep, or else I don't know what I'm talking about if I haven't seen this or haven't seen that, or if I think this, or, especially with Donald Trump. It's like, man, I know so many anti-Donald Trump people, and it's like, it's really just kind of made me go back and kind of check myself and make sure, man, I don't like the way that person approached me, and let me make sure I don't approach people
Right.
like that. And sometimes you don't do it consciously, and sometimes you do it because you really care. And so what I found is the way that I approach people can change things, and usually I'm not proactive now, especially in the last years, because I want to maintain good relationships with my family.
Right.
So I don't bring, if they bring it up, yeah, we can talk about it, but I generally do not really bring up anything
Right.
anymore.
And it's
And
true.
that
Like
sucks.
it's true, and it's how you approach people. I learned that too because when I first started waking up and learning all of this stuff, I wanted to like tell everybody. I was like,
Right.
and I was very forceful. I was like, "You got to see this. You got to watch this." And the more you can't
Me
go at
too.
people like that. And a lot of people, you got to warm the pot of water up slow. You can't just throw them into a pot of, and it's boiling already. So I found that if you gradually get them
Yeah.
watching it and reading it, it kind of they're kind of more open to it. But I definitely agree with you that it's you definitely got to have a technique to doing it. And I did find out one time. I'll tell you a quick story that's funny.
Sure.
I remember I was researching and just questioning flat Earth. I've always just found that something I just question, and I look at all the different videos and different people talking about it. And in my great wisdom, a couple years ago at Thanksgiving dinner at my wife's parents' house, I thought I was going to bring up discussing flat Earth at the dinner table. Let me tell you, Greg, that is not the place to do it. That is
No?
not the
Okay.
time to do it.
Noted.
The
Okay.
look, I mean, I don't think they've ever looked at me the same. And I'm not even joking since that day. Like, they look at me like a little weird now. They look at me kind of like, did you really just bring this up? And then I brought up the moon landings too, right after flat Earth. That really, all in the same dinner. So it was
Oh
bad.
wow.
Yeah, I
You were on
really,
a you were on a roll.
I
Was
was
this a
on. Oh,
Thanksgiving dinner? Is that what?
yeah, that I was on a roll that day, and then I was after like 20 minutes, like I just like okay, I got to shut up, and I learned my lesson that I'm just giving you guys advice that are listening or watching. Do not spring this on your family or friends at dinner. It does not work well, and I learned that the hard way. And I've had other researchers tell me the same thing. They're like, yeah, I made that mistake too. So I think there's a lot of credence in when like what you say. You got to know when to bring it up and how much to bring it up, and it's hard to gauge that at times for sure.
And you also have to know who to bring it up to and who
Exactly.
not to. So I have, like, my sister, she doesn't want to talk about the stuff. I never bring it up. If
Hmm.
she brings it up, or if she wants to talk about it, like, great, cool. But yeah, so you kind of have to kind of gauge that. And these are people that you love. These are people that you care
Yep.
about. So you don't want to hurt their feelings. And sometimes we don't mean to either. And like, people will bring up a lot of anti-Trump stuff. And you know I think by that time I had learned my lesson, is like, you know what, okay, well, think whatever you want.
Yep.
Don't talk to me about it, because my view. Are
Yep.
you trying to agitate me about it? I and so and I would even get to the point, I really don't care what you think about this. It's, you think whatever you want. And they would take that role. You don't care. It's like, no, it's like, I don't mean I don't care about you. I don't, your view on that does not bother me
Hmm.
on it. I'm not going to change my view on the way that I feel. I'm 42 years old, but it's going to be very hard for me to change my view for right or for wrong.
Right.
And there's certain things that I would love to talk to people about, and there's things that I'm not open to talk to people about. And I have, if I'm going to be like that, I have to respect other people like that too. If they don't want to talk
Exactly.
about September 11th, I'm not going to talk about it. One day my brother told me very forcefully, and I was shocked. Didn't want to hear about David Crowley. I was shocked. I was shocked because I was like, wow, I didn't, am I talking about it too much? Or I think it was just, it had, whatever his issue, I think, had nothing to do with David Crowley. It had more to do with me and my personality and the way that I would come across towards people like I knew everything. And
Right.
I didn't mean to be like that. And I don't know everything, but I didn't understand why they were feeling like that. And it has very little to do with me. It has to do with them and the way that they were brought up. My mom does not want to hear about the whole moon landing thing either, because we have family that work with NASA and worked on
Yep.
certain things, so they have a preconditioned thing. So I get it. That's not going to affect my view on it, but at the same time, and especially with elders, I've learned this a lot too. With the elders, sometimes just shut up, listen to what they say, move on, because one day that's going to be us. One day I'm going to be the elder, and so how am I going to want people to treat me? I got to treat them that same way. I respect my elders. I didn't always, and as I get older, I'm starting to understand that whether I agree with them or not, they're older. Show your respect to them, because I want to pass that on. I want the younger generations to do that same thing. And if I'm not showing my respect, then why would I expect the younger people to show me their respect? And look at this world that is happening. Look at all the way that these young kids are walking around, the way that they're treated. They have no respect for anybody. No, not all of them, but what I see, and I was one of these people. No respect for elders, don't care. No, it's all about you. And
Mm-hmm.
when you live your life that it's all about you, you're not going to want to look at the Bohemian Grove. You're not going to want to look at all that stuff, because it doesn't, you think, what does it have to do with me?
Yep.
How does this affect me? Okay, these guys are hanging out in the woods. So what? I don't care.
Yep.
And it's like, wow, you really don't understand, how serious these things are. But at the same time, you know what? I can't force you to eat your broccoli. If
You
you don't want
can't.
to
Yeah,
eat
you
your
can't
broccoli,
force people to
you're
wake
not
up.
gonna eat it.
You can't
Right.
force people to wake up. I've tried to do it. It doesn't work. And you bring
Doesn't
up a
work. Right.
great point about how the younger generation and um, walk around and they just don't seem to care and they don't respect anybody. And like, I'm not saying everybody's like that. Don't let me make a
Sure.
blanket statement. But there is, I find with a lot of the younger generation that they are that way. And I do think it's by design. I think that a lot of
Yeah, I
people
do too.
are living a satanic lifestyle. Let me put it this way: they're living
Absolutely.
a satanic lifestyle, and they don't even realize it. It's not intentional. They're not sitting in a graveyard sacrificing cats and friggin' wearing robes, but they are living a satanic. And what's very scary is if you look at the tenets of Satanism, and
Mm.
and they do have their own tenets, believe it or not. I like to just inform people that they do have their own form of commandments and that they follow and stuff. They have their form of commandments just like the Christians do. And if you go down the list and a lot of people live a satanic lifestyle and don't even realize it. And I do think it's by design. I think the top of the pyramid that run all the governments. I do believe that too. That there is a pyramid scheme that's going on, and at the top of the pyramid, they're
Me
the
too.
ones pulling the strings. They're moving the government pieces around. They're moving everything in our world around, and I think that's just trickling down that from that top. And a lot of people say to me, well, I don't believe in Satanism. I don't believe in, some even say they're not Christian. They don't believe in the devil. They don't. And I always go back to, yeah, you may not believe that, but the people that are ruling over us, they do believe in it.
Right.
And it's their lifestyle. It's what they believe. And I think people would be very shocked to see how many of the tenets of Satanism they could check off on that list that is a part of them. And I just think I really do think it's all done by design, and they're making us this way or trying to.
Yeah.
What do you
Yep.
think?
And it's so out in our face now. And that's
Oh,
one of
for
the things
sure,
that
for
I
sure.
wonder about the Grove. Did they want us to see this?
Yep.
Do they want us to be fearful of this? Do they want us to really focus on this stuff? Because look at everything that's out there now. I mean, every Super Bowl, I can't watch a Super Bowl halftime show.
Nope.
I'm a sports fan. I can't watch a lot of sports anymore.
Nope.
I'm a wrestling fan. I was watching wrestling a couple months ago. One of the characters has a pentagram.
Mm-hmm.
he comes out of this pentagram box. To a lot of people, it doesn't mean anything. As a Christian, man, that bothered me.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to boycott. I'm not going to,
Yep.
but it's just like, wow, it's so out in our face that we need to be spiritually prepared for these things. And I think you're right. A lot of people aren't, because they have no idea what is going on.
Yep.
And I mean, that's why I hold my Bible close to me,
Oh, for
because it's
sure.
it's
And the
it's all
symbol,
right there.
yeah, and the symbology, when like that's another topic that we got to get into another show, because the symbology out there in the world is so in our face. As you brought up the Super Bowl, I can look at musicians. It's all over the
Yeah,
music
it
world.
is.
It's all over the movie world. It's all in business. It's in logos. And when you have eyes to find, when you finally wake up to symbology, that was one of the big things that I learned with Mark Passio. Is and the great thing about Mark Passio, if you do any research on him, you'll really like. I know you'll love his lectures. I
Yeah, I'm
know you
actually
will.
looking him up. I've pulled up some of
Yeah,
his stuff right
and
now. Just
he was a priest in the Church of Satan when he was a younger man.
interesting.
Yeah, he
Interesting.
was a priest in the Church of Satan, and he's very open about it. He does not hide anything about his life, and that's how he when he was a priest in it, he saw what, like, he was the guy that was going to these meetings of rich people, and that were part of the grovel, that the grovel, I think they're called. I can't remember. There's a name for the groups that they were. And he saw what the elites were doing and heard what they had planned and stuff like that. And so he got away from it. And he said he couldn't do that because he didn't want to be responsible for what they had plans for humanity. But the way he describes it, everything that's happening now with the conditioning of our children, and what getting rid of the family unit, getting introducing a lot of different religions, like he was talking about solipsism before it was a thing. Like, he was one of the groups, the meetings he went to, they were like, wait till you see the number that we play on people when we introduce solipsism into the mainstream world. And
What is that? What's
solipsism
solipsism?
is, you don't believe in anything. Like, you don't
Oh,
believe,
okay.
if I'm correct, I may be wrong. Forgive me, people, if I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm like, Greg kind of hit me right out of the. So I just did.
Sorry.
It's okay. I did a chain reaction, so I'm pretty sure I'm right. But if solipsism in a very rudimental form is, you don't believe in any other, like, the only thing that is real is your existence, and
Mm,
everything else besides your existence is up to, it's not real. Like, it's really weird. It's a really weird belief system when you look into it, and it's very satanic. And they were planning this, he said, years and years before it became a popular terminology that people started following. So I don't think people realize how deep the Satanism in the world goes. And whether you believe in it or not, that's not a concern to me. I know there is people that do believe in it, and they're powerful people. And he also makes a great point where they have trickled and infiltrated every part of society, in schooling, healthcare, government, like, you name it, they're in there.
yeah.
And this is all by design. And I think you're really going to find his work. I think you're going to get a lot out of it, Greg. I really do. If you take the time to, you don't have to start with the 7 hour one. I mean, by all means, he does some other
Oh,
ones
there's
that,
there's a
yeah,
yeah, there's some short clips that I'm
yep.
seeing here that, yeah,
And he's
yeah.
even got he's got a series on his website there, or his YouTube channel, that you're looking at, where it's not even
Hmm.
a video format. He just talks for an hour, hour and a half, and it's just called "What on Earth Is Happening," and it's like a podcast where you can listen to him while you're doing stuff around the house or whatever. And I think you'll get a lot of it. I think anybody listening to us right now will, if you look into it and give it a little bit of time and start slow, I think you're going to find out a lot. And what he tells about and knows from experience is very disturbing. And I really think the world is where we're at right now, Greg, from design. I
Hmm.
do. I truly believe that.
But yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's all in scripture. It's all, I mean, that's what it's all going for. If you look at what the devil is, and what a lot of people, what they've fallen for, is to make it all about you.
Yep, it's
You
true.
you
That's
you
true.
you've you've heard that phrase, you got to do you.
Hmm.
And my wife makes fun of me, and we joke about that phrase all the time because somebody said that to me when I was working, when I was at work, and I couldn't stop laughing about it because it's like, you got to do you. I know what they mean,
Hmm.
but the way that it's said and everything, and it's like, wow, that's a very selfish thing.
Yep.
What about everybody else? What about what I do? How does that affect everybody else?
Hmm.
There's so many people hurting in this world, so many people that need help. And if I'm just doing me, then I'm not going to be able to help, other people that may need it. And God may put you in a spot where you're able to help that person. But if you're too busy doing you, then
Yep.
you may not help that other
And
person.
that's a
It's just,
very satanic mindset to just
it
be
is,
that
right?
selfish, to be just about
Yeah,
you. That's one of the tenets of Satanism, actually. And one day, like I'm
really.
serious,
Yes.
yeah, just Google it one day or tonight when we're done, and just Google the tenets of Satanism, and you're gonna read them, and you're gonna be like, oh my god, like that is so many people, so many people's mindset in the world. And I'm not saying that they're doing it intentionally. I don't believe that at all. I think that it's just the way they're being led, and we're being led in the world, that we're adopting this mindset, we're adopting these traits, and we don't even realize where they're coming from, who's putting it in our minds, with all the different forms of media, entertainment, everything, and the symbology, which was, as I was saying earlier, a show I want to do with you, because I think once people have the eyes to see all the symbology in the world,
Hmm.
that's when my eyes really opened. Like I was like, oh my god, like. And there's a great lecture on Mark Pascal's site. You'll find there. I'm not sure the title, but he does. It's got symbology in the title, and he breaks down all the symbols that are around us, and it's very scary, Gray. I see symbols everywhere now. I'm not sure. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, I see the circle, the triangle. With David Crowley, there was a lot of the symbols.
Yep.
The more research that I do on the Grove, it's there too. There's the Grove, the Bohemian Club is based in San Francisco. To
Okay.
me, that's the belly of the beast right there, man. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you've ever been to San Francisco or not,
No, I
but
haven't, but I like. Would
it's
Why do you think? Well, like I don't want to ask why do
yeah,
you
I
think
wouldn't want
that?
to go there.
Why do you
It
think
is.
that?
I think it's the main thing is a feeling that I get. Looking at San Francisco as I got older is a lot different than looking at it when I was a child. When I was a kid, I loved it. It was cool. I thought it was a great place to go. Big buildings. I would just sit there and stare at all of these buildings and everything. But then you look at the people there, and you look at the homeless people that are suffering, the people that are walking around talking to themselves, being violent towards other people, committing, very strong crimes,
Mm-hmm.
the crimes I don't even want to mention. But and at some point, and I was working out in San Francisco, and I was like, man, this is like the belly of the beast here. I just want to get out of here. I don't know if you've ever been around a Satanist, or you ever been around somebody who believes that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was, and I almost got physically sick to the point where I had to leave their residence, go out to my car, smoke a little weed, and just kind of chill out. And I had no idea why. It was only years later that I really understood what they were trying to do to me, and what was happening. And when I went to San Francisco, maybe about 5 years ago, I kind of started getting that same feeling, like something just kept telling me, you need to get out of here. You need to leave. This is not a safe place. And we used to do protests and things like that out there, in the Fed rally and all of that stuff. Right around the time that I started going to the Bohemian Grove in 2012, doing the protests, the the Occupy movement, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. I started seeing this, and it was like right out in your face. These people are camped out here, young people, not worried about their future, not worried about what tomorrow brings, not worried about what they're doing here, doing drugs, doing crime, shooting up camp cities. I mean, all of that stuff is what I saw in 2012 and what I saw in 2020. In 2020, it's just like a bigger version of what I was seeing back in 2012. These young people that are just going to ruin their whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
And in San Francisco, man, it is not a safe place. It is just really not a safe place. You have people just walking down the street, crapping their pants, smoking up, shooting up, doing all of this stuff here, stalking people, gang, the gang thing, all that has been there for a long time. But it just really, at some point I was like, this is like the belly of the beast, and I need to get out of here. Even the people that were just going about their normal lives, they're just doing they're not helping people. They see crimes, they see a guy over here who needs help, they run the other way.
Mm-hmm.
They're not interested, and they're probably just scared. If you talk with people who live in San Francisco, hopefully you'll get different views than what I'm telling you, but you may get those people. It's like, it's not a safe place, and you need to be able to feel safe, where you can walk down the street not in fear, not looking over your shoulder. I grew up like that. That's a horrible feeling, to live your whole life like that. At some point, you're gonna just do something. You're gonna find yourself in a spot that you're gonna have to either defend yourself, or you're gonna have, you're gonna get caught up with the wrong crowd. And San Francisco seems like a big breeding ground for that. But the symbolisms in San Francisco was the big one. The Masonic temple that they have there, the Masonic buildings, the Bohemian Club building there, but all of the buildings there, just to me, started at some point. It was like a veil was lifted, and at some point, everything that I used to see as a kid that looked awesome and great now looked like satanic, and looked like just the belly of the beast. I mean, to where we're talking about literally seeing the pagan symbols, literally seeing, satanic things being written, and you turn down this street here, and all of a sudden, there's people, Satanists, basically.
Yeah, and
And
it's
so
true.
I just was like, you know what, I need to get out of there. I have no interest in ever going back to San Francisco. I told my job that if you send me back there, I'm not
Oh
going.
yeah, and that's the thing. That's what I was trying to say. I totally get what you're saying. When you start to notice the symbols and the
Yeah,
symbology all around, it's in every city, even in my city. When you start seeing it, you can't unsee it. Once you start, your brain recognizes it, and you start knowing what it is. You can't unsee it, and it's everywhere. Like
it's true. The
everywhere.
whole
It's
BART, yeah, the big BART building in San Francisco. I don't know if you've ever seen that,
I
but it's
have.
just a pyramid. It's a
Yep.
giant pyramid. For years, I had no idea what that was, and then I watched some videos about the whole symbolisms. And I look at, I'm like, wait a minute,
Yep.
that's a big pyramid there.
Yep.
I mean, even the twin towers, once they were taken down and they replaced it with One World Trade Center,
Yep.
and it's just this big building, and it's all triangles, and it's just all pyramids stacked on pyramids. It's
Yep.
just, yeah, you're right. It's everywhere.
It's
It's
everywhere.
everywhere.
And people don't seem to, they don't know until until you start showing it to them, or they find out on their, like, they kind of stumble on themselves. And it's
Right.
very eye-opening. It was for me, and it still amazes me that the amount of symbols I see in everything, movies, TV shows. One, like, as I tell you, people, once your eyes are open to the symbology of the world and what's going on, it really is an eye-opener. So I'm just warning you that once
Yeah,
you see it, you can't unsee it. And I even
but
found,
don't fear it. But
don't
don't
fear
fear
it.
it,
Yeah, don't
because
fear
that's
it.
what they want. They want you to be
Exactly.
scared of it.
They want people scared and alone. That's the way I
Yeah,
see it. And I find even that I've noticed over the last, like, probably 20 years, that there's a definite push by the elites to break up the family unit. That
absolutely.
they don't want a family. Like, I see that all the time now. They don't want a strong family unit. And all of this is by design, and I that's why I always wonder about places like the Bilderberg meetings and Bohemian Grove, and
Hmm.
that, like, how much of all of this is being planned in those areas. And maybe nothing is. I could be on, let's be honest, maybe none of it is. But you have to wonder, when you got all the elites of the world and the most powerful people in their chosen professions all meeting at one place in the woods, and doing, and very high security. You have to wonder what's going on there, and what is being planned there. And that's the way
That's
my
right.
brain looks at it.
Yep. Yep.
And with
That's
the
right.
Alex Jones documentary, I'm sure you even saw when he was walking around. There's a lot of weird things in the Bohemian Grove, like a lot of skull imagery, Like there's a lot
Yep.
of skulls
These little
everywhere.
devils.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I mean, you can say that there are a bunch of guys going there for art class or whatever to play golf, but there's definitely, in my opinion, a darker side to that whole place. I really
Yep.
believe that, and I just it's the feeling I get even watching videos on it. It's just a very, like you said, a dark feeling.
Yeah, it changed my view on theater too, which kind of sucks. I was kind of okay with it, but it really changed my view on theater, the actors, being an actor. Because I used to want to be an actor. That was my dream. I wanted to write plays. I wanted to be in plays. And as a kid, and I was doing all that. And then I'm I'm reading some of this stuff, and I'm like, wow, this kind of opened up my eyes on a lot of stuff. It's like, wow, you're not being yourself.
Hmm.
You're portraying another person. You're channeling another person, another thing. And if you're not careful, you could actually channel something that you can't break from.
Hmm.
And so that's why they say actors are kind of weird and all this stuff. Well, yeah, they're weird. Look at what they're doing. There's people, there's witches, there's things like that. They go out there and they purposely try to channel these demons.
Hmm.
We don't know if stuff like that, hey, I wrote this play and you're going to play the devil. Well, I guess I better do some research and find out who the devil is and start playing with Ouija boards and learn about witches and learn about all this stuff. Like you just don't know. It obviously a strong person can do that and probably that it doesn't affect them. But I see now why God did not lead me on that path, because I could not deal with that.
Yeah,
You know,
I
I
can't.
can't,
Yeah,
I can't do it.
I
Can't
couldn't
do
see.
it.
I could not see you from what I know of you in Hollywood around those type of people. I can't see
That's
it.
what I wanted. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my dream, and I was really upset when it came to the point where I realized that was never going to happen. And then God started showing me why He didn't want me there, and now I'm like, thank you, thank you, Lord,
Oh,
because
for sure.
I probably wouldn't be here today. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's just like the theater. It's dark. The movie industry is dark, which is that's
Hmm.
everybody seems pretty much knows that by now. Look what's happened over the years. What's been revealed. And the
Right.
music industry is. I love music. Don't get me wrong. I live for
Me
music. I
too.
love
Me too.
music. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of dark imagery in it. Like as you said, you can't even watch a Super Bowl half show. Like that's pure paganism. I don't care how you cut it or look at
Right.
it. It's pure. It's basically you're looking at a satanic ritual when you're looking at the halftime show. At least the last few years that I saw, and it's
Yep.
so in your face now. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. That's what scares me.
No.
They're not trying to hide
Hmm.
it anymore. They want you to
No.
see it. They're flaunting it at us.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you're seeing a lot of people who are they specifically make videos on that. They may not know what they're doing,
Hmm.
but you're shedding a light on something that they want you to shed a light on, and it's like it's a double-edged sword, because obviously you want to do that so that people know that their symbolisms are out there, but you also are like, but you don't want to, you you don't just want it to be like, hey, well, they want to show you these symbolisms, and here I am helping you see that, see what they
Yep.
want you to see. So it's a double-edged sword. You have to use wisdom, you have to be wise, and there's a lot of people out there that can do that. It takes a very strong person, but
Yep.
it can be done, where they show you the symbolisms and they show you why that stuff is wrong, not to just glorify it and say, look what they're doing, and make you all scared and fearful and everything. So it's that fear that I try to stay away from. And unfortunately, I think I fell for some of that with some of the Alex Jones content. And I knew some good people who fell for that stuff with the Alex Jones content, to the point where all they wanted to do was leave the country, go live in a cave somewhere and not deal with anything. You really think that's what God wants you to do? You really think that you're a good person, you're a strong person, you could stand here and fight with us? Don't run, don't
Hmm.
run, don't be scared, but don't run either. So it's a balancing act. And
Oh, for sure.
you know
And that's what they want. They want us in
that's
fear.
what they want.
That's what.
Yeah.
And I've been saying that, especially in the
and
last 2
and
years.
separated, and
Separated and
separated,
yeah,
right?
separated in fear and very distracted. They want us. They're
Yeah.
constantly distracting. I noticed that. And once you start realizing that, and your eyes open to that, it's a kind of a gradual progress. The more you kind of research and open your eyes, it kind of leads you down the next, and it starts to very much open up. And
Right.
that's what I've found. And it's a it's yeah, I'm like with you, Greg. I really am that. I think they're trying to they're so with the symbology in the movies and in music and stuff like that. I think they're just to the point now where they know that they can just throw it in our face. They can basically, I think they could come out right now and say I think a group could come out and say we're satanic, we run everything. We've done all of this by design, and I don't think people would care. I think that people are that far gone in the world now. I don't like to say that because I do have hope for humanity that there is enough good in the world that it will come back. But I just think that a lot of people um, are not willing to see it, and I think that they're so blatant about it now that they're just throwing it at our face. They don't even care if they're noticed or exposed or anything. They just don't. I think they believe humanity just don't care enough anymore.
Yeah,
That's the way I see
yeah,
it.
and that's sad. Yeah, and that's really sad. But yeah, it kind of seems like that's where all of this is going. That's in scripture too. We don't, if you read the Bible, you read the Revelations, you see how this ends. It doesn't end with all of us holding hands together.
No.
It doesn't. It does at the very end, but I mean, but not before Jesus Christ comes back, man.
Right.
Until then, look at this world. Look at what is happening. And that's why, that's another thing. Once I realized that as a teenager, it took away a lot of that fear. Putting my faith in Jesus Christ and recognizing that freed me to where I could start researching September 11th, and I could start researching these things and not be scared of it. I know some people can't, and that's why I don't push it on them,
Hmm.
because maybe they're not ready for that, and I could be helping actually bring fear to them by talking about September
Right.
11th, by saying, hey, man, do you realize the towers fell down in 1 hour and there's no way that could happen unless somebody planned it? Do you realize JFK was murdered by more than one people? Some people can't handle that,
Hmm.
and so it's kind of that double-edged sword where you want to help them. You want to show them that these things are happening. And at the same time, by doing that, you may actually be bringing fear that God has not prepared them for yet. So
Hmm.
it's a difficult it's a difficult journey,
It is,
but
and there's no, and everybody's different. That's the
everybody's
hardest part.
different.
Everybody's waking up at their own pace, and I truly do believe. Like I have a lot of faith in humanity. I like at times I don't, to be honest, I don't. Like I see, like people being so cruel now to people and being
You know,
so selfish to people, and I'm not saying people don't lump me in with saying that's everybody. I'm not saying everybody in the world's like that, but I'm saying a majority. I find people are just falling that way, and I don't think they're doing it on purpose. I don't think it's something that they're even conscious of. I just think they're being led that way, and that's the only way I can describe it. They're everything that they're seeing and they're experiencing, and what the media is pushing at them and everything. They're steering people in that way, and I
yep.
think I don't know what it's going to take, Greg, to wake people up. I really don't. I don't. I mean, I was watching the thing going the protest before we went live, or not live, before we did we're doing our started our interview. That I was watching what's going on in Australia, and I see people protesting. I think that's amazing. I think that has to happen. But I also see them sitting there playing music and they're singing along and they're having a jamboree, and I'm like, I think the time for singing people is a little over. Like you have to start trying a different tactic here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I look at the protests that I thought that was a pretty peaceful protest, obviously, but
Oh, for
you
sure.
look at the Kenosha protests, the George Floyd protests, all of those protests, and I'm watching those and looking at, okay, in the daytime it always starts out kind of peaceful, no
Mm-hmm.
big deal, but when the night hits, the the violent people come out, the spectators come out. You have a couple organized, I believe they're organized groups that are doing the violence, burning things down. But what I look at is look at all the people that are just standing around watching,
Mm-hmm.
filming,
Mm-hmm.
kind of agitating, kind of going with it, and just kind of there, like you said, there, it's training ground for those people. Don't you want to come with us? Don't you want to be like us? Come
Mm-hmm.
and let's go burn some stuff down. Let's go create chaos. It makes them feel good. It makes them feel like they are now a part of this world. They're a part of something. That's why people join into a gang. Well, that's why they join this club. That's why they join the Freemason. They want to be part of something. It's not enough for them to just be a strong human being within themselves. They want to be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people can say that with Christianity. I think it's different with Christianity. I do believe it's more about your free will, and you have to be willing to stand up the way Jesus Christ stood up for himself. Didn't want other people. He died. He was willing to sacrifice himself for that. And a lot of people are just not willing to stand up by themselves, and
Right.
really do something positive, do something good. And that's why Kyle Rittenhouse, that was another big one. What I saw him do, and just like, man, this kid was 17 years old. That When I look at people like that, it does remind me there are a lot of good people in this world. We may not see them, may never see them, may never hear from them, may never know them. But when I think about how many people are in this world, have been in this world, and will be in this world, and how many people that I know, people that I know and have experience with is probably a very small number. I do believe there are a lot more good people out there that we'll probably never know.
Mm-hmm.
We'll
I
probably
agree.
never come across, and maybe they'll never be put in that situation where they will have to do something like what Kyle did. We may have to, and we may not be ready for it. We may not be prepped for it. But that's why I look at these things. I look at these groups, at these protests, and like you said, hey, you know, is it what are we doing here at the Bohemian Grove 2012 protests? It was very similar. You had a lot of people that were there for their own reasons, for their own purposes. They were trying to get you to join their group.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't really there because, hey, let's figure out what's going on at the Bohemian Grove. You have people that wanted to storm the gate. 2012, if you ever look up Bohemian Grove 2012, it was a crazy, crazy year.
Okay.
They had thousands, maybe, they had hundreds of people. They wanted thousands. There were people that wanted, including Cindy Sheehan, that wanted to go and storm the Bohemian Grove gates. Why? What is that going to do? What do you think? Do you think that's going to change the Bohemian Grove or club members'
Nope.
minds? Do you think that's really going to, make them see, hey, we're nonviolent out here. You guys are doing something bad, but now we're going to do something bad. That's why with these protests, when they go and somebody gets shot, somebody gets killed, and they go and they burn the city down. What are you doing? Why?
Yep.
It
And
it it, it
I do worry about that the Kyle case, that if he does
yeah,
get off and he does get found not guilty and he walks, I really hope
yeah,
that that doesn't happen. I pray that doesn't happen, but the way things go,
yeah.
seems to be a riot after everything now that goes on. So, and when
Oh
you
yeah.
and it's kind of funny the way you mentioned that they wanted in 2012 to storm the Bohemian
Yeah, they
Grove.
want to start with
Well, it reminds me of a few years ago. Remember, they were wanting to storm Area 51. Remember
That's
that?
right.
And
Yes, I
I'm
do
like,
remember that.
yeah, and I'm thinking, people were showing up for this, and I'm like, okay, people, one, you haven't thought this through, that this is not going to end well for whoever's doing the storming, and but it just reminds me of that. That's what made me giggle when you said they wanted to do the Bohemian Grove. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like storming Area 51.
Yeah, yeah,
Not gonna
and
end well
it's
for the stormers. Sorry to
no,
say.
no, no, and it's like okay, well, what are you really here for? Like, what if you want to know about Area 51? There's a lot of research. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things you can do, but you really, I mean, to go in to storm Area 51, and you start looking at these things and you start thinking, are these programs? They want to storm Area 51. They want to storm Bohemian Grove. These riots, you can look at these riots. They're almost there. This looks like a program. A computer programmer created a program, sent it out to this stream, to that stream, and it's the same program. It may vary a little bit. Obviously, always, every program is going to have some variables, but ultimately it's the same program with the same goal. And you see that with so many of these shootings, these lone gunmen shooting. There's so many programs out there, and it's just like it cannot be a coincidence programs just don't create themselves. Somebody creates them
Hmm.
and puts all of that stuff out there. And there's very strong evil people in this world, like you said, this pyramid that we
Hmm.
see. And whether you believe, like I believe, that it's the devil at the top of that pyramid, or whatever you believe, it's just a bunch of powerful people sitting in a dark room, whatever it is, it's these are not just coincidental things, and that scares people too.
It
To
scares me. It
think
scares me
that.
even now, and I tend to think that I'm more awake than a lot of the people I know. That in my everyday life, I think I'm very much more awake than a lot of people from the stuff I've researched, and it scares me, Greg. To be honest, it really does because I'm thinking after I saw what they did with COVID, like what's next? Like, I mean, if I would have told you 2.5 years ago that they were going to shut the whole world down and that the whole world would be shut down for a long time, you would have never believed me. You would have been like, they
No.
can't do that. How are they going to shut down the whole
Yeah.
world? I hate to tell you,
Right.
people, you're a witness to it. They did it. And
Yeah.
now it's
Well, wait,
becoming,
wait.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, wait until they. I was speaking with somebody about this years ago, and we were talking about this. The whole the whole internet, that can be shut down.
Oh,
There
easily.
is a source. There's a source to the
Yep.
internet. One day the internet could all be gone. It could all be completely gone.
Hmm.
And people aren't going to be ready for that. They're not going to know what to do. It's going to be chaos. So there's definitely this plan, and I think COVID is probably a test run for that, a big test run for that. But I believe that's where it's going. Where, like you said, shut down the world, see what the people do. Test
Hmm.
number one. Every program does that too. They run tests. They figure out what the errors are, what worked, what are the glitches, and then they keep going.
Yep.
This is not going to get better, people. It is is COVID
No.
is leading to something
And that's
else,
what
and I do
I've been
believe,
saying that for years.
yeah,
I said, like, everybody's like, oh, I'll be so happy when everybody's vaccinated and the world goes back to normal. And I'm like, A, the world's
it's
not going
never
back
going
to, it's
back.
never going
Right.
back to the way it was before COVID. I hate to burst your bubble. And I always say, like, I honestly believe we haven't seen anything yet. I really do think
Right.
that when I heard the government say it's going to be a dark winter, that my ears perked up when I heard that right away. I was like, okay, they're saying something without saying it, in
Right.
my opinion. Like when they said there's going to be a dark winter and the Great Reset, like you could research the Great Reset, people, and I really want to get an eye opener. And it's true, and
Yeah.
they're like I
Yeah, it
said,
is true.
they're just telling us now what they're going to do. They're not even hiding it, and that worries me. And I'm worried. Like I'm thinking, what do they have next coming down the pike? Like I know it's getting winter where I live, and I know that I already predicted that by Christmas we're gonna have another lockdown. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I come on my show and I say, hey, I was wrong, and I'll be the first to admit it. But I already can feel that we're as soon as it gets cold here, the cases start going up a bit because people are more in their house. They're gonna lock it down again, and that's what scares me is that people are so willing now just to accept the lockdowns as quick as they happen, and that scares me. Like I don't know where we go from here, Greg. I really don't. I'm scared to see what's next, though.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's going to be worse. It's definitely going to be something. I mean, we couldn't, like you said, if you would have told me a couple years ago, COVID, I would have said no. And whatever's coming next is probably going to be the same thing.
Hmm.
We're not going to be ready for it. It's nothing that you can prep for, and it will definitely be something that will affect all of us worldwide. So look for it, whether it's an alien invasion or, I mean, what
Yeah,
else could it
that wouldn't even
possibly
that
be?
wouldn't even surprise me. That wouldn't even surprise me anymore if somebody news said that there's an alien invasion coming. I'd be like, I knew it. It just I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting numb to it or something. I hope I'm not, but I'm
Yeah,
just
I'm kind of more. I kind of more think they're probably here. They've already breeded with us, and they're probably walking around. I'm more apt to believe that, just because I'm so preconditioned with the alien thing. It's like, this has been happening for so long. I do
yeah.
believe this whole digital technology, the reason why we're able to do shows like this, I do believe it. There's some art, whether it's alien intelligence, I believe it's artificial intelligence. Ultimately, it's the devil's intelligence. That's why they call it the beast. The main center of all of this that we're looking at is the beast. You give the people what they want, and then you take it from them. We had all this freedom. The country was open, the world was open. They took it away from us to see what we would do. I don't think they got exactly what they wanted, but it's going to happen again. So whether it's, have you ever seen the movie World War Z?
Yep. Yeah. Seen that movie.
Dude,
Yep.
okay, if I were to rate zombie movies, that may be number two. Obviously, Night of the Living Dead for me
Right.
would be the first
Classic.
one,
Yes. But yeah.
classic.
Yep.
But World War Z, I mean, can you think of a better zombie movie than World War Z aside from that?
No. No.
I mean, and I was watching that the other day and I was looking at it with, post COVID eyes. I'm like, holy crap. The virus came from Taiwan, didn't come from China, came from, but there's so many things that are similar. And I'm like, what would we do? The grid would go down, power would go out, the internet would go up. A lot of people don't have ham radios. A lot of people don't have old school radio. How would they get in touch? Cell phones would all die.
That's why I started. That's why I taught myself over the lockdowns how to lose. I learned Morse code, and
Is you really?
I did,
Awesome.
yeah, and that's the whole reason I did it. Like I'm trying to, even with my disability. I mean, with my disability, the way my body is, I'm cooked. No matter what happens, if there's any type of war, I'm done. So, but I figure any skill is better than no skill. So I did.
That's
I
right.
taught myself Morse code, which is actually really cool to learn. It's really fun.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really liked it, but I agree with you with the World War Z and another. Do you watch series and stuff like that? Are you, because the series I just watched last couple of days that really made me think about what's going on now is the Squid, which I'm not even sure if you've heard
No,
of
I
the
haven't
series.
seen it. No.
You gotta watch it. You gotta watch it.
I'm really like it's hard for me to watch any new anything past like the 90s. I'll be honest with you. I may try, but it's really hard. If it has sexuality, if it has rape, if it has stuff like that, I will not watch it.
No,
Just
no,
throwing that out
no,
there.
it's not nothing sexual, but it's a very dark. Uh, it's a dark series, and what the series is about is that people that are in. I think it's based in North Korea, and it's people that are very in debt. They get this offer to go and play a game for this massive amount of money, and like it's a huge amount of money, but there's like it starts off with like 500 people, and they got to play kids games, and then if you fail at playing a kids game, they kill you. And you get down to the last person. But no, that's a very rude form of it, Greg. And when you watch it, you start to realize that it's what's going on in the world in a like roundabout way, like not what's actually going on, but you can see the similarities to how the elites. Or it's because it's elite people that are running this game, right? You find out.
Mhm.
So you can see how it's the top of the pyramid. They're entertaining themselves by watching people do this, like the way I think the elite in the world now watch us, and we're just entertainment to them. I really do think that that's how they look at us. Like, what can we do to fuck with them some more? Sorry for my language,
Right.
but that's what I
Right.
believe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like I like to keep my fiction and my nonfiction completely separate. Lord of the Rings, yes. Game of Thrones, no.
Okay.
World War Z, yes. Walking Dead, no.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm very
Yeah.
like I really like to keep that separate because it's I watch the movies to get away from that. If it's real stuff, obviously I love to watch like real film, real documentaries about that stuff. But that's really dark. That sounds really, really dark. Like
Oh,
Hunger.
it's
I
really.
haven't seen
I
the
won't
Hunger
lie to
Games or
you.
anything, but
Yeah, Hunger Games
yeah,
is another. You haven't seen Hunger Games? That's
I
another
haven't
one.
seen Hunger Games.
Yeah,
No.
you. I don't know how you'd come out of watching the Squid and the Hunger Games. You might be like, oh my god, but it's.
Well, I'll tell you, I read 1984 because so many people were talking about it,
Yep.
that you have to read. I read it and I hated it. It left me with such a dread feeling, such like a dark feeling, and I don't want to come away because that's programming. They're trying to program me. That's brainwashing. And people like me, I'm not saying other people may be stronger and it doesn't affect them the way that it affect. I know how movies and things like that affect me. And I'm just not a strong enough person to watch stuff like that. So it would be very hard for me to watch
Yeah, yeah,
something like
definitely.
that.
Yeah, don't watch the Squid or Hunger Games, but let me just take my word for it.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
when,
I'd love to hear you talk about it, but
yeah,
that may be the extent.
exactly. Like, just take my word for it that it's mirroring what's going on now in a lot of ways. Same with Hunger Games,
Yeah.
I find is a movie that it's just I don't know if they're trying to throw it at us and say this is what's coming. and they're so bold about it now that they're just showing us what's coming. But I
Yeah.
definitely I have the same feeling you do, that there's something coming down the pipe, obviously, and that scares me in a lot of ways because I know a lot of people, 90% of the population is not ready for it. They're so reliant on technology. They don't even know. Some people probably don't even know how to start a fire. They don't know how to get food if there's no grocery stores. And I saw
Right.
that I lost a lot of faith in you, to be honest, Greg, in humanity when I saw the great toilet paper scare that happened last
Yeah.
year. I was like,
Yeah.
even in my town, I was like, oh, I for some reason in my brain back a year ago, I thought Canada was so much more better, and we were. I don't know what I
I did
thought.
too, man. You got the
Yeah,
greatest freaking wrestlers. I was like, how
yeah.
could they go wrong?
But they fell for the toilet paper scare too. I went and filmed people. I went to the Walmart just to watch people, and people were going crazy for toilet paper. I was like, I can't believe I'm watching this. So if they're that
So
crazy
crazy.
over toilet paper, can you imagine when the food starts running
Right.
out? And we're not ready for it, Greg. We're just not.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're totally right.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that. I mean, we saw the same thing. We still see it. I was at Costco a couple weeks ago and there was no toilet paper.
Oh
No
my.
toilet paper, no paper towels. And I'm just like, well, I know it has to do with all the port stuff that's
That's
happening,
scary too. That's
Yeah,
scary too.
and it's like that's where it all starts. If they can't bring it here, how, and it's like, wait a minute, that's why for so many years you would go to your local store, you would go to the person who made the toilet paper,
Yep.
didn't live that far away from you, not outsourcing. That's why the outsourcing stuff is just so bad, and they make it seem like it's such a great thing because they know that it's something they can turn off, anything that they can control and turn off. Well,
Yep.
if my neighbor down the street is making toilet paper and he has a cotton farm or whatever it is, obviously I'm not going to have that problem. But if it's across the country, or if it has to be shipped in, I mean, that's why the globalism, I think a lot of people, and that's why they're keeping it quiet. You don't hear too much about globalism that much. It's
Nope.
more socialism, communism, but it's really the same thing. It's just packaged differently. So I'm curious to see what they're going to package it as next, because it's really just a one world order. It's a new world order. Like they've been trying to push that for many, many
Oh
years
yeah,
on paper.
forever, forever.
Now
Yeah.
that we're in digital, you don't hear that much about it. They act like it's a thing of the past, like they stopped doing it. They didn't stop
No,
doing it.
not
It
at
just
all. And
changed. It's morphed.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, they haven't stopped at all. And that's the scary part too, is that the port thing scares me because like there's ships waiting to be unloaded. Like eventually the shelves in the stores are going to start running dry if they can't get the goods out. And then what really
Right.
scared me is that I found out that 90% of all the generic medication out there,
Hmm.
prescription or non-prescription, all the generic, 90% of it is made in China.
That's
That just
crazy.
that's crazy to me. I'm like, "Oh my god, do you know how many people in the world rely on medication just to
Yeah.
survive?" And 90%, I think it was like 95% or 97%. It might be 97% now that I think about it, is made in China. Like that's crazy
Yeah,
to me.
and it's crazy. That's crazy. And why does it have to be?
I don't think
Does
so.
it need to be? They want it. They want it that way
Yeah.
because they know it's something they can turn off.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the scary part, and then it's a great way to bring our the end of this, Greg. Like how many decisions of these decisions that we're speaking about tonight are made in a place like Bohemian Grove? I really truly wonder that. Is this something that
Yeah.
they've been planning for 10 years, 20 years, 5 years? Who knows? But
Yeah, I think probably hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years. I know in 2020 it was really weird. That was the last, because I was not there this year in 2021. But in 2020 it was weird because it was under COVID lockdown. So they weren't
that's
supposed to
right.
be
That's
there.
right.
Nobody was supposed to be there, and they were kind of there, they were kind of not there. They had some big floods in that area. So when we were there and I'm looking down at the ground and everything is all dirty and muddy, right before we had gotten there they had some massive floods there in that area. But talking with some of the locals in the last couple of years, I don't know if they're desensitized to it, but they were making it seem like even the Bohemian Club is not what it once was. A lot of them are dying off. They can't get new people. So it's possible. One theory is that they're pretty much at the end, and they're just uh kind of they're being used so that people focus on the Bohemian Club while they really have moved on to another group, to another power structure. I don't even hear that much about the whole Bilderberg that much.
Yeah, I was
You
going
know,
to ask you
between
about
20
that.
2012, we used to hear everything was focused on the Bilderberg. We don't hear that much about it now. So I don't know if they're just better at hiding it or if they've moved on and it's somewhere else now. I don't know.
That's a good question because I don't even know if Alex Jones is really harping on the whole Bilderberg. He was really beating that drum for a lot of years, and I don't watch now. Granted, I don't watch him anymore, so he might be
Yeah.
really going into it, but I don't. You're that's a good question. Like in it, that's a very good way to look at it too. Is like is Bohemian Grove still very strong, and we're just not they're good at covering it up, or is it just trickling out and they've moved into somewhere else? They've different organization. They who knows what they could have done.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what it seems like is that that's possible. Maybe they've moved on. After Jim Tucker died, um, he was kind of the leading Bilderberg, sleuth on it or whatever. And you don't really hear that much. Once Alex Jones stopped talking about the Grove, you don't really hear that much. In 2012, like I said, there were hundreds of people there, and 2013, 5, 10.
Oh, really?
20, yeah, 2014 and on every year past that, 2, 3.
So there's not a lot. So when I always thought that when they had these Grove meetings that it was a huge amount of people blocking the entrance and all of that.
No, only in 20, the only year I saw that was 2012. I heard 2011 because 2012 was my first year, but I heard 2011 and a couple years prior. Yeah, there were a lot more people, but by 2013, yeah, 2013, maybe we had 20, maybe 30 people, but by
Wow.
2014, yeah, it was like literally 3, 4 people out there.
That is
Maybe. Yeah.
that's a real shock to me, Greg. I wouldn't have thought
Yeah.
that. I would have lost money on that bet. I would have been like, oh, there had to be at least 100 people. So that's
Yeah.
crazy. But so
But
to
that
wrap.
would see that made me think that 2012 was all part of that program.
Okay.
That they were, they were shipping in because there were a lot of people that were actors. They were agitators, and they were just there to just talk smack to the cops. And I was constantly telling the cops, I was at the front line too, and I was telling the cops, we're not with these people. I don't know who these people are, and I
Right.
guarantee you, those people will never show up. They were paid, they were bussed in, they did their thing, they yelled at the cops for 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, got it all on film, and then left, and you never see them again. And
Right.
I'm sure they go to all these protests and do that same thing.
Well,
um,
that's been proven. Like that's been proven
right.
that there's agitators that'll even go to the riots that we see now, and they'll bus them in, and then they
Yeah.
go there and they
Yep.
cause hell, and they'll turn a peaceful protest into a violent one and get it turned into basically a riot situation, and they just kind of fade into the night. You never,
Yep.
you don't see who they were, you don't know where they came from, who sent them, but there's definitely that's going on. That's been proven. Like people can argue that all they want, but that's the truth.
Yeah. We used to call them the black block party, I think it was.
Okay.
And then they morphed pretty much is what has morphed into Antifa
Mm-hmm.
and the BLM. The BLM is worse because they hide behind black people. They don't care about black people. It's not about black people at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. It's the same program, and they want these big violent groups to go out there and stir up trouble and create strife and get people to start choosing sides and put people in these boxes.
Right. And
And I'm not going to let them do that to
no,
me.
I totally agree. And that's what this elite that is running us and trying to control us always do. They always want two groups fighting with each other because the more we're fighting with each other, the less we're looking at them and focusing
That's
on
right.
them and fighting towards who we should be fighting towards is what they are doing. And I just try to tell people it's a good way to wrap it up in a way is that you have to start looking at this, people, because our freedoms are being eroded away at such a rate now that we hardly have anything left, and we have to start doing something. I mean, how much more can people take before they just can't take anymore. I mean, like, we're losing freedoms, we're losing our liberties, they're being stripped away for all these different excuses, and it's a very, for me right now, a very dark time. And I really think that people need to start coming together. I think we got to start. There's going to be all the time in the world to fight with each other about different issues and what you believe and what you don't believe. But I think right now, at this point in our history, humanity's got to start loving each other and really come together and stand as one. I think that's the only chance that we have. What do you think?
I think you're right on the money. That's it.
Perfect. Like, yeah, that's what more can we say, right? Like, but
Well said.
to wrap it up though, Greg, can you just show the people the books that you were talking about if they want to start looking into the Grove, and which ones you would recommend for them, just to kind of wrap it up?
Yeah, sure. So one that I didn't really mention yet is by Mark Dice. I thought this one was okay. I wasn't really too impressed with it, but if you're just looking for uh, books, you want to collect all the books on the Bohemian Grove, this is definitely one that is worth it. This is called The Bohemian Grove: Facts and Fiction by Mark Dice, but a lot of that, is stuff that is just research stuff that you can find. If you get this book from Alex Jones's website, 911 Descent into Tyranny, at the very end, he does talk about his experience inside Bohemian Grove. So that one is worth it. Even if you're not interested in September 11th, there's still about a good 20 pages. But if you really want to dig deep, and if you're looking for a good book to start with the Bohemian Grove, you never heard about it, you've seen videos, you're like, oh, okay, I've researched it a little bit. This is the best book to get. This is where I would recommend everybody start. So this is Mike Hansen, Bohemian Grove, Cult of Conspiracy.
Nice.
This is the book. I have marked of this book. I have page marks and everything, and I've used this in a chapter of one of the feature books that I'm actually working on.
Perfect.
The annals, the last one here, the annals of the Bohemian Club. We're working to actually digitize these so that people can read these for free and can download them. We have some of the download. You can download some plays like we talked about, and but these are really the real books that you want to get your hands on here if you can find them. This is another sign that the Bohemian Club is not what it once was, because we're able to go online to eBay, to different websites, and you can actually purchase these books out there right now. So if you want to get some of those, they're hard to find, but they can be found, and hopefully we can digitize these so that anyone who wants to read them for their research purposes.
That would be great. And the one that you just had up, was that at one time only for members that could get that?
Yes, yeah. These were made specifically for their members.
Wow.
So I don't, yeah. And so at some point they've kind of put those out there. This is this book, 800 copies have been printed for private subscription within the Bohemian Club, copyright 1930 by the Bohemian Club. So these were not really meant to be public, but you can see this is another reason why we think, the club is not what it once was, is they're out there.
And what is a book like that? Do you have an idea what it would cost you on eBay? Are they going for crazy price? Or are they?
Some of them are, yeah. Some of them can be really crazy. I think I got this one for maybe 30, 40 bucks, but that's generally what you're going to find, if not 100. So that's why I was like, a few of them were like 150, and I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Especially after my friend did, so I didn't need to. But yeah, so that stuff is out there. And if you're looking for a website, good website, not a website, a good YouTube channel, look up Mendo Brendo, Mendo Brendo. He has put up, because he purchased like their audio, some of their videos and stuff. So he was able to purchase some of their soundtracks that are them singing, doing their plays and stuff like that. And it's pretty out there. So yeah, so there's some pretty creepy stuff about what they do. I don't know, maybe some people may not be anything. To me, it's just weird. It's very weird stuff.
Weird to me, and I'm pretty open to most things. And even when I saw that, as I said earlier in our discussion, when I saw that cremation of care, it just gave me chills. I was like, that's really weird that they're really into that. So that's just my opinion for what it's worth.
Yeah,
Definitely a great topic. I think to look into if you want to kind of see what's going on, but in these different organizations, I'd like to get you on again to talk about even some like the Bilderbergs and the other Freemason stuff. Talk about that because I think it's important.
sure.
And do you want to let anyone know where they can find you on YouTube and your Facebook pages?
YouTube right now, if you just type in Greg Fernandez Jr., you'll see me. It's the purple one that comes up. It's kind of a pinkish purplish one. And let me just show you here. This will be a symbol. What you'll see if you're looking for, you'll kind of see this, my
Okay.
PDR, which is part of my music. And so you'll see that out there. And I've been posting stuff. It was my backup channel because my main YouTube channel was taken down. So it was just my backup channel. And now obviously I'm turning it into my main channel.
All
But if you
right.
just look up Greg Fernandez Jr., probably all my social media, all that stuff will just pop
Perfect.
up, but not hard to
What
find.
if somebody wants to start looking at the Crowley case and the Gray State and all of that? Where do they find you for that? Because I know you got a lot of
Sure.
places for that.
Yeah, the best place if you're looking for any, if you want my book, if you want to download my free book, or you're looking for any documents on the David Crowley case, go to thegraystage.wordpress.com. That's stage with a G, not state, but stage. So thegraystage.wordpress.com. I'm also on Facebook with the same name, and we have a group. So if you want to learn more, if you want to join that group, we're almost up to 4,000 members, and it's
Wow.
Justice for David Crowley and Family. And our goal is to get justice for the family. We have a podcast every month, a new podcast coming up. Rick, hopefully, will be
Yep.
able to join us
I
for the
hope
next
so. I
one.
will
So
be there.
awesome. So we release that on the first of every month. And that is called The Gray Stage. So wherever you listen to podcasts, type in The Gray Stage. I'm sure that it'll pop right up. And we're staying on this case, a lot of new things that we're working on, and nothing I can talk about yet, but it's all
Well, hey,
happening.
that's great, Greg. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, my friend.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us about the Bohemian Grove. It's a great subject. I think we barely touched on it, to be honest. We kind
We
of.
did.
So I'd like to actually have you back again and talk about it some more. I think it's a great subject, and I'm really interested in it. So you're always welcome to come here and discuss whatever you'd like. I really enjoy talking to you and learning about stuff. I'm always hungry for knowledge, so it's great to have you teach me about these things and let me know things because I learned a lot about the Bohemian Grove this evening that I did not know, and that was really cool. So I'm excited that I learned some new stuff.
Excellent. I like that, my
Yeah.
friend. Well,
So
thank you again.
you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
You have yourself a great. What is it now? Where you are? Morning. It's morning.
Yeah, just morning. Yeah,
All
just
right. So
turning
you
into
have
morning.
yourself a great morning. It's morning here now too, and then I'll definitely take care, and I look forward to having you on again.
All right.
Take care, Greg.
You too, man.
There we go. Another great episode. What a great topic tonight. I had so much fun actually discussing that with Greg. I mean, he's just a great guy to talk about. He's so knowledgeable in a lot of the subjects that I find very uh, entertaining and fascinating to research. I really do enjoy a lot of different subjects, and Bohemian Grove is definitely one of them. As I said at the beginning of the podcast, it is one of the first things that I started researching when I first saw the Alex Jones documentary. That is where I started doing a lot of research, and it was a really crazy subject, and it's something I've always been interested in. And I'm really thankful for Greg telling me, like, talking to him tonight because I learned things about Bohemian Grove, and even in my research, I didn't know. And that's amazing. I love when I learn new stuff like that. I really think that's cool. And it was really neat to learn some of the things that he told us about. And, it was great talking about all the other things that we talked about too. I just like when I have an organic conversation with somebody and I let the conversation take on its own life and guide us, let it go where it wants to go. Like, why put restrictions on it and say we can only talk about Bohemian Grove? That's it, nothing else, and we're going to stay there. No, let's things flow. Like the smoke on the screen that you see. Just flows where it wants to go. just like I like the conversation to do. And I think we touched on a lot of great topics tonight. Bohemian Grove for one of them, and religion a little bit. A lot of great stuff. I think I had a great time, a great discussion, and it was really a lot of fun. And I hope you guys are enjoying these interviews I'm doing. I hope you enjoy my show here, my podcast. If you do, please take the time to like and subscribe. Let your friends know, share it, all that good stuff. I always get told I should say that at the end of every show. So please, if you like, hit the thumbs up. Give a guy a break. Give him a thumbs up. Give him a like. Pass the word on. I'd like to get a lot more people here. Eventually, I'm planning on starting to do some live shows because I'd love to be able to actually do some live shows and have you guys actually in the chat joining and part of the discussion, asking questions and stuff. I think that'd be great. So I am starting to line that up. Got a lot of other cool, great interviews coming up too in the works. So I'm having a lot of fun setting those up. But a lot of different subjects. I enjoy many different subjects. As I always say, I love talking to people and hearing their stories and what they think. And I think everybody's got an amazing story. I really do. And why is their story so amazing? It's like I always tell you guys, what makes the story about you amazing is it's your story. That's what makes it amazing. That's what makes it interesting. And that is what makes me want to listen to it. So I want to thank you all. Have yourselves a great day, great evening, depending where you are and what time it is you're listening to this. And please, when you see me have another video posted, please come and join us. Come and check it out. And just, have a good time, learn a few things, and it'd be great to have you here. So take care, and I will be seeing you shortly, and stay safe.